The lawyer's office smelled like old leather and disappointment. My siblings sat in their designer clothes, barely containing their glee, as Mr. Whitman read through Grandma Cecilia's will. $3 million each for Brandon, $3 million for Ashley, $3 million for Marcus. Properties divided equally among them. Investment portfolios transferred. Even her jewelry collection, the one I'd helped her catalog every summer, split 3 ways. And to my granddaughter, Josephine Marie Caldwell. Mr. Whitman paused, adjusting his glasses. I leave the contents of safety deposit box 447 at First National Bank on Meridian Street. That was it. No money. No properties. Just whatever was in a safety deposit box. Brandon snorted. Figures. Even dead, Grandma knew Joey was the family disappointment. Brandon, our mother chided weakly. But she was already eyeing the inheritance tax paperwork, calculating her children's newfound wealth. Ashley didn't bother hiding her smirk. Maybe it's some savings bonds. You know, enough to pay off those student loans from that art degree. Marcus, the eldest and cruelest, was already on his phone. Probably just her old photos and worthless mementos. Grandma always was sentimental about junk. Mr. Whitman slid a small envelope across the mahogany table. My name was written in Grandma's spidery handwriting. Inside, a single brass key, spotted with rust, attached to a leather tag that read only 447. That's it, Ashley laughed. Joey gets a rusty key to what? A box of costume jewelry. The worthless grandchild gets worthless junk, Marcus said, standing. Seems fitting. He pulled out his phone, showed me the photos he'd posted from Grandma's house that morning. My childhood artwork. Photos of me with Grandma, letters I'd written her from college. All burning in the backyard fire pit. Cleaned out your old room, he said casually, made space for my home office. Grandma's house is mine now, after all. I fingered the key, staying silent. Let them talk. Let them gloat. Let them sign every document Mr. Whitman placed before them with eager, greedy fingers. Miss Caldwell, Mr. Whitman said quietly when my siblings were distracted with their windfall. The bank closes at 5. You might want to visit sooner rather than later. Something in his eyes, a flicker of knowledge, maybe amusement. I nodded once. The funeral was that afternoon. A lavish affair my siblings had planned to showcase their newfound wealth. Brandon gave a speech about family legacy while wearing a new Rolex. Ashley dabbed at dry eyes with a handkerchief that cost more than my rent. Marcus talked about preserving Grandma's memory while living in a house where he burned my photos. I sat in the back, the rusty key heavy in my pocket. After the service, relatives I hadn't seen in years suddenly remembered I existed. Joey dear, I heard about the will. Aunt Patricia cooed with false sympathy. So unfair. But then you were never really close to Cecilia, were you? She left me what she wanted me to have, I said simply. A key? Uncle Robert laughed. To what? Her cookie jar. I smiled, said nothing, and left early. Let them gossip. Let them pity poor Joey with her art degree and her rusty key. First National Bank on Meridian Street was an old building, the kind with marble columns and tellers who knew your name. Mrs. Chen at the safety deposit desk smiled when she saw me. Miss Caldwell, we've been expecting you. She took the key, examined it. Box 447. Your grandmother was very specific about the instructions for this box. Instructions? She led me to the vault, past rows of identical boxes. She said you come alone. Said you come after the others had signed everything. Her eyes twinkled. She also said you'd understand why when you opened it. Box 447 was larger than I'd expected. Inside 3 things. 1. A manila envelope, thick with documents. 2. A leather journal, worn and familiar. 3. Another key, modern, silver, attached to a tag with coordinates. I opened the journal first, recognizing it immediately. Grandma's investment diary, the one she kept religiously for 60 years. The one my siblings claimed never existed when they ransacked her study looking for financial records. The final entry was dated a week before her death. My dearest Joey, by now your siblings have gleefully divided what they believe is my entire estate. Let them. The money I left them is real, enough to keep them satisfied and stupid. What they don't know is that the millions they receive represent exactly 15% of my actual wealth. You see, my darling girl, while your brothers and sisters spent their visits asking about my will and checking my bank statements, you spent yours asking about my life. While they cataloged my possessions, you cataloged my stories, And in those stories, I told you everything. Remember the tale about your grandfather's foolish investment in that little Seattle coffee company? The one your father laughed at. Starbucks turned those worthless shares into quite a fortune. Remember when I told you about buying useless land in Austin back in the 70s? The parcels your siblings called Grandma's dirt collection? That dirt is now in the heart of the tech district. The key you're holding opens more than a box, Joey. It opens the door to everything I really owned. Everything I kept hidden from grasping hands and greedy hearts. The documents in this box will lead you to 47 commercial properties across 7 states. Investment portfolios worth approximately $280 million. Art collections in climate control storage, yes, including the monet your brother said was fake. The vineyard in France your sister claimed I invented. The publishing rights to your grandfather's patents. And the crown jewel, the 1,800-acre ranch in Montana where I taught you to ride. All held in trust, all in companies they never knew existed, all waiting for the only grandchild who loved me for me, not my money. There's one condition, my dear. You must never share this wealth with your siblings. Not out of cruelty, but because they've already shown you who they are. Brandon burned your memories. Ashley mocked your dreams. Marcus destroyed what you loved. They chose their inheritance. Now choose yours. The silver key leads to the ranch. Your real inheritance isn't money, Joey, it's freedom. The freedom to create, to live, to be exactly who you are without apologizing to anyone. All my love, Grandma Cease. P.S. Mr. Whitman has been my lawyer for 40 years. He's the only one who knows the truth. Trust him. He has instructions to help you claim everything properly and quietly. P.P.S. The rusty key? It's from my first apartment, the one where I started with nothing. I kept it to remember that wealth isn't what you're given. It's what you build. You, my dear, have been building all your life. I sat in that small vault room and cried. Not from grief, I'd done that already, but from the sheer magnitude of her faith in me. While everyone else saw the struggling artist, the unmarried granddaughter, the one who couldn't afford designer clothes or fancy cars, Grandma saw the truth. She saw the girl who spent summers learning her recipes instead of asking for money, who helped organize her photos instead of appraising her jewelry, who asked about her childhood in Poland instead of her stock portfolio. The manila envelope contained deeds, titles, account numbers, contact information for lawyers and property managers, an empire hidden in plain sight. The ranch alone was worth more than what my siblings had inherited combined. I called Mr. Whitman from the bank. Ah, Josephine, he said warmly, I trust you found everything in order. She left me everything. Not everything, he corrected gently. She left them what they expected, money. She left you what they never understood was valuable. The rest. My siblings. Signed ironclad documents accepting their inheritance as complete and final. They can't contest what they don't know exists. I could hear his smile. Your grandmother was a brilliant woman. She structured everything perfectly. Shall we meet tomorrow to begin the transfers? I hung up and looked at the silver key. The coordinates led to Montana, to the ranch where I'd spent my happiest summers, where Grandma taught me to ride, to paint landscapes, to see beauty in wild things, where my siblings had never bothered to visit because it was too far from civilization. That evening, I attended the family dinner at Marcus's house, Grandma's house. They toasted their good fortune with champagne that cost more than my monthly salary. At least Joey can afford to eat tonight. Ashley laughed, gesturing at the elaborate spread. Consider it our charity. Yeah, Brandon added, already drunk. Maybe we should set up a fund for her. The Failed Artist Relief Foundation. I smiled, sipped water, and let them talk. Marcus showed off his plans to gut Grandma's gardens and install a pool. Ashley bragged about quitting her job to become an investor. Brandon had already bought 2 sports cars. What about you, Joey? Mom asked, trying to be kind. Will you be all right? I know Grandma's oversight must hurt. I'll be fine, I said honestly. Grandma left me exactly what she meant to. A rusty key, Marcus laughed again. To what? Did you even check? I did. And it opened what it was supposed to open. Which was? Ashley pressed, sensing something. I stood gathering my things. A door. To what? Brandon demanded. I looked at them, my siblings who've inherited millions but not wisdom, who've gained wealth but not worth. who'd burned my photos while sitting in a house worth less than the dirt they'd mocked. To the future Grandma wanted me to have, I said simply, "Good night." I left them there, confused and irritated but not worried. Why would they worry? They had their millions. They had one. The next morning, I met with Mr. Whitman and began the quiet process of claiming my real inheritance. By the end of the week, I was worth more than my siblings would make in 10 lifetimes. But I didn't buy sports cars or designer clothes. I didn't quit my job at the gallery or move from my small apartment. Not yet. Instead, I flew to Montana, used the silver key to open the ranch house, and found one last gift, a studio Grandma had built just for me, with north-facing windows and views of the mountains. On the easel was a note, "Paint your truth, Joey. It's worth more than their lies." 6 months later, my first solo art exhibition opened in New York. The mysterious buyer who purchased the entire collection for $2.3 million remained anonymous. The check was drawn from a company called CLC Investments. Cecilia Louise Caldwell Investments. Thanks, Grandma. My siblings came to the opening, of course. Drawn by the prestige and the free champagne, calculating how to use my sudden success for their benefit. "I always knew you had talent," Ashley lied smoothly. "We should talk about investing your earnings. Family helps family." Speaking of family, Marcus interjected, "You could use a business manager. I'll give you the family discount. Or you could invest in my new venture," Brandon added. "Ground floor opportunity." I smiled at them over my champagne glass. Real champagne now, not the cheap stuff I used to drink. That's kind of you all. But I have excellent financial advisors. They've been managing my portfolio for years. Portfolio? Ashley blinked. What portfolio? "The one Grandma helped me build," I said truthfully. After all, she had just not the way they assumed. They exchanged glances, calculating, wondering. But what could they do? They'd taken their millions and signed their papers. They'd mocked the rusty key and burned my memories. And now I stood in a gallery wearing a simple black dress and my grandmother's pearl necklace. The real one, not the copy she'd left in the jewelry box they'd divided. The one she'd hidden in the ranch house with a note, "For Joey's first exhibition." "You know," I said quietly, "Grandma once told me that wealth isn't about what you have. It's about what you do with it." "Easy to say when you have nothing," Marcus scoffed. I smiled. Exactly. They left early, frustrated by my calm and their inability to figure out my sudden success. Let them wonder. Let them assume I got lucky with art sales. Let them sleep soundly in their paid-off houses while I owned the land beneath 100 others. That night, I called Mr. Whitman. "I want to set up a foundation for struggling artists, full scholarships, living stipends, no strings attached." "Your grandmother would be proud," he said warmly. "What shall we call it?" I thought of the rusty key still on my keychain. The key to a first apartment, to humble beginnings, to remembering where you came from. The Rusty Key Foundation, I decided. For artists who have everything but opportunity. Perfect. And your siblings? They got what they wanted, I said. Money without meaning. Wealth without wisdom. Exactly what they deserve. I hung up and looked at the gallery walls, now empty of my paintings but full of promise. Tomorrow, I'd fly back to Montana. I had a ranch to run, properties to manage, a fortune to shepherd. But tonight I raised a glass to the woman who saw me clearly, who gave my siblings enough rope to hang themselves with greed, who left me a rusty key that opened every door that mattered. Thanks, Grandma, I whispered, for knowing the worthless grandchild was worth everything. Somewhere in her house, Marcus slept soundly, never knowing he lived in the smallest property in Grandma's true portfolio. Ashley dreamed of investments, ignorant that her millions were pocket change compared to the accounts she'd never known existed. Brandon polished his sports cars, oblivious that I owned the dealership where he bought them. And I held a rusty key and smiled. Because Grandma was right, they'd chosen their inheritance, cash they could count and spend and waste. She'd left me something better, everything else. The key to her first apartment, the deed to an empire, the knowledge that being the worthless grandchild had made me the only one worthy of her real trust. $3 million had bought my siblings' silence, their signatures, their willingness to write me off. It was the best investment Grandma ever made.
The valet took my beat-up Civic like it was a biohazard, his nose practically twitching. I didn't care. My hands were full, one clutching the strap of my thrifted floral dress, the other balancing a white plastic box. Inside, a $14.99 grocery store cake bought on a frantic break between a morning catering gig and an afternoon event setup. It was a last-minute thought, a don't show up empty-handed gesture for a family I barely knew anymore. This was Elena Mason's bridal shower, held at her fiancé's family estate. Estate felt like an understatement. It was a sprawling, gated fortress of manicured lawns and fountains, the kind of place where even the air smelled expensive. I'm Vanessa Burke. I'm 27, and I work as a junior event coordinator, sometimes picking up freelance catering gigs to make ends meet. It's how I know places like this, and it's how I know the Masons. I walked past a champagne tower that probably cost more than my rent, past tables laden with Gucci and Cartier boxes, past women who looked like they'd been sculpted from Botox and designer fabric. I felt like an alien, or maybe a prop from a different movie. My dress, a surprisingly good find from a vintage shop, felt suddenly flimsy. Then I saw her, Elena, my cousin, 29 years old, radiant in a silk jumpsuit, her blonde hair perfectly coiffed. She was the golden child, the one who effortlessly glided through life, never knowing what it was like to count pennies or work 2 jobs. We hadn't been close since we were kids, not really. Not since my dad, her uncle, left my mom for a wealthier woman who just so happened to be connected to the Masons, his cousin's in-laws. It was a messy, ugly split that effectively severed my branch of the family from theirs, leaving us on the outside looking in. They'd always made it clear I wasn't one of them. Elena's eyes, the same shade of blue as mine, swept over me. They lingered on my dress for a beat too long, then dropped to the plastic cake box in my hands. Her perfectly sculpted eyebrows did a tiny, almost imperceptible lift. A slow, saccharine smile spread across her face. "Vanessa," she purred, her voice dripping with an artificial sweetness that made my teeth ache. "You made it." "Of course," I replied, trying to keep my own voice even. "Wouldn't miss it." I held out the cake. "For you." She took it, her manicured fingers barely touching the plastic. Her gaze flickered to Natasha Wong, her maid of honor, who was standing beside her, phone in hand. Natasha, 28, a social media influencer with a permanent pout, barely stifled a giggle. It wasn't a quiet giggle. It was the kind that blooms like a disease, infecting everyone around her. A few other cousins' faces I vaguely remembered from long ago holiday gatherings joined in, their laughter tinkling like broken glass. "Oh, Vanessa," Natasha said, her voice loud enough for a few nearby guests to turn their heads. "How thoughtful." She raised her phone, not even trying to be subtle. The flash went off. I felt my cheeks flush, but I held her gaze. Let them laugh. I'd seen worse. I'd cleaned up worse. A moment later, a notification sound pinged from Natasha's phone, followed by more suppressed giggles. I knew what it was before I even saw it. My phone, still in my purse, vibrated. I pulled it out, pretending to check a message, and navigated to Instagram. Sure enough, there it was. Natasha's latest story. A close-up of my sad little cake, still in its plastic box, sitting on a pristine white linen tablecloth next to a sparkling diamond gift. The caption read, "Welcome to Tiffany's." Oh, wait. My stomach tightened. I watched the view count climb, 100, 200, 500. The laughter around me seemed to grow louder, more confident, like a chorus of hyenas. They wanted me to feel small, and for a second I did. But then something else started to simmer, something hot and familiar. This wasn't just about a cake. This was about everything. They seated me at the far corner of the main table, practically next to the waitstaff service entrance. It was a subtle but effective move, out of sight, out of mind. I picked at a canapé, watching the room through narrowed eyes. Elena was at the head, surrounded by her bridesmaids, including Natasha, who was still glued to her phone, occasionally flashing a triumphant smile. Her new story, the one mocking my cake, was probably racking up thousands of views by now. It wasn't new, this feeling of being an outsider. My whole life it had been like this. Every family gathering, every holiday dinner I was dragged to by my mom before she finally gave up. I was always the one in the slightly too small dress, the one whose parents didn't have a summer house in the Hamptons. Prudence Mason, Elena's mother, my aunt by marriage, had always been the ringleader of the exclusion. Prudence 55, with her perfectly coiffed silver hair and a permanent expression of polite disdain, had mastered the art of making you feel like dirt without saying a single overtly rude word. She just had to look at you. Or, like the time I was 10, make a comment about my shoes not being quite right for a garden party. My mom, bless her heart, had just squeezed my hand and smiled tightly. We left shortly after. I remembered a Christmas when I was maybe 8. Elena, then 10, had gotten a pony. I got a board game. Not that I expected a pony, but the sheer gulf between our lives was always on display. My dad, Roland Mason's 57 brother, had left us when I was young, and while he eventually got a job through Uncle Roland, it was always clear we were the other family, the one they tolerated but never truly accepted. A familiar face approached my corner, a small, tentative smile on her lips. Hope Ramirez, 26, a childhood friend. We used to play together when our mothers, both working class, would briefly cross paths at community events. Hope was always sweet, a little shy, and now she looked uncomfortable, caught between worlds. She was one of Elena's bridesmaids, probably because their families had known each other for ages, even if their social circles had diverged. "Hey, Vanessa," Hope whispered, sliding into the empty chair beside me. "It's good to see you." "You too, Hope," I said genuinely. Her presence was a small comfort in this gilded cage. She glanced around, her eyes darting nervously. "Look, I just wanted to say about the cake. Don't let it get to you. Natasha's just like that." "I know," I said, a dry smile playing on my lips. "It's fine." Hope leaned closer, her voice dropping to a near whisper. "There's something else, though. Elena's been stressed. She told us, the bridesmaids, that she expects everyone to cover their contribution later. Apparently nothing's been paid in full for the catering. She thought the gifts would be enough to cover it, or something, like she expected everyone to lavish her with more than just presents, and now she's short." My eyebrows shot up. "Seriously? For her own bridal shower?" Hope nodded, wringing her hands. "Yeah, she said she assumed the generosity of her guest list would take care of it. But it's a full-service catering and the bill is probably massive. She's trying to figure out how to tell everyone without looking bad." Just then, a discreet conversation drifted over from the service entrance. The maitre d', a man in a crisp black suit, was speaking softly but urgently into a phone. "I understand, sir, but we need a card on file. The event is underway and we still don't have a secured payment method." He paused, listening. "No, we cannot continue without one. We will have to pause service if this isn't resolved." He hung up, looking visibly frustrated. He then turned to a server, his voice low but firm. "No card on file. Keep an eye on the host. We need to address this before the main course." My mind, trained from years of working these exact kinds of events, immediately started connecting the dots. No card on file. Guests to cover their contribution. Elena's assumption of generosity. It all clicked into place. Elena had walked into this event expecting someone else to foot the bill, probably her fiancé Davis Kent's 33 family, or maybe even her own parents, Prudence and Roland, but it hadn't happened. And now the catering company was on the verge of pulling the plug. Just as the realization solidified, Elena's voice, amplified by the microphone, cut through the room. I just want to thank everyone for coming today. It means so much to have all my favorite people here celebrating with me. She began listing names, thanking specific friends, her bridesmaids, her mother Prudence and her uncle Roland. She even thanked Davis's parents. She thanked everyone except me. It was the final tiny prick, the one that pushed me over the edge. I felt a cold, clear resolve settle over me. This wasn't just about a cake anymore. This was about years of being invisible, of being less than. I pulled out my phone, a smirk slowly spreading across my face. I opened my contacts and found the number for Marcus, the head chef at Gourmet Galore. The catering company I knew was handling this event. I'd worked with him plenty of times. He owed me a favor or two. I typed out a quick text. Hey Marcus, it's Vanessa Burke. Quick question about the Mason bridal shower today. Is the account still unsettled? I hit send. The game was on. My phone buzzed almost immediately. A text from Marcus. Yeah, V. Total nightmare. Client's been dodging calls all morning. We're about to pull the plug if they don't get a card on file in the next 15. Why? I typed back, a slow smile spreading across my face. Don't pull the plug. I'll cover it. Just for the tab. And I need a favor. Discreetly leave a note with your maitre d'. Tell him Vanessa Burke is assuming coverage, and I want a private receipt, gold-framed, delivered to Elena at dessert. Make it a show. Marcus's reply was a single word. Done. You're a legend. My heart hammered a little. What was this going to cost me? I had savings, sure, but they were for a down payment on a small apartment, not for a luxury bridal shower for my estranged cousin. Would it backfire? Would Elena just laugh it off, or worse, get her parents to pay me back and make me look like a fool? But then I thought about all the years, all the times I'd been made to feel less than. The not quite right shoes, the hushed whispers about my mom working 2 jobs, the way Prudence Mason, Elena's mother, always looked at me like I was something she'd scraped off her designer shoe. I remembered a specific incident, clearer than anything. I was maybe 12, and my mom, bless her stubborn heart, had actually managed to get us invited to a Mason family picnic. It was at their country club, sprawling green lawns, white linen tablecloths, waiters in crisp uniforms. I was trying to play croquet with Elena and Tobias, her older brother, who was then 15. He was always quiet, even then. Elena, 17, was already a mini Prudence, bossing everyone around. I remember Prudence walking over, her voice like ice. Vanessa, darling, are you sure you should be playing with that mallet? It's rather expensive, and your attire isn't quite suited for the grass. My mom, who had been chatting with Uncle Roland, Prudence's husband, saw the look on my face. She walked over, her own face tight. Prudence, we're leaving. She grabbed my hand, her grip firm, and pulled me away, past the laughing faces of the other Mason cousins, past Elena's smug smile. I could hear Prudence's voice. Well, honestly, some people just don't understand decorum. We drove home in silence, my mom's knuckles white on the steering wheel. That memory fueled me now. I'd spent years in catering working these exact kinds of events. I'd mopped champagne vomit off marble floors after drunken guests stumbled out of galas. I'd served endless trays of tiny, expensive appetizers to women who wouldn't meet my eye, who treated me like an extension of the silverware. I knew the meticulous planning, the hidden costs, the sheer labor that went into making these lavish parties seem effortless. I knew the maitre d' was probably sweating bullets right now, trying to keep the facade up while the client was ghosting them. And I knew what a bill like this would look like. Thousands, maybe tens of thousands. This wasn't just a party, it was a full-blown production. I watched the maitre d' now, a subtle nod passing between him and one of the servers. He'd gotten my message. The service continued seamlessly. The tension in the room, which only I seemed to have noticed, began to dissipate. Guests continued to mingle, oblivious, sipping their champagne, admiring the diamond gifts, and snapping photos of the opulent setting. Hope, still beside me, leaned over. "What was that about?" "Just a little business," I said, a cryptic smile on my face. "Don't worry about it." She looked at me, confused, but didn't press. The main courses arrived. Seared scallops, tiny roasted potatoes, asparagus spears arranged like works of art. More champagne flowed. The laughter grew louder, the conversations more animated. Elena was holding court, basking in the glow of her impending nuptials. Davis Kent, her fiancé, a Wall Street type, 33, sat beside her, looking pleased but somewhat detached, as if he was just along for the ride. He seemed genuinely unaware of the financial drama unfolding behind the scenes. My uncle, Roland Mason, 57, Prudence's husband, caught my eye from across the table. He gave me a small, almost imperceptible nod, a flicker of something like guilt in his eyes. He was the one who got my father that job after the divorce, a quiet acknowledgement of the family split, even if he never truly intervened. Tobias Mason, Elena's older brother, 30, sat next to his father, silent as ever, observing the scene with a detached, almost bored expression. He'd always been the quiet one, the observer. Dessert carts were being wheeled in, champagne, waffles, gold-dusted strawberries, miniature creme brulee. The air filled with the sweet scent of sugar and anticipation. This was it. The curtain was about to rise. The room buzzed with the clinking of forks against china and the murmur of satisfied guests. Dessert was in full swing. Elena was laughing, her head thrown back, a picture of bridal bliss. Davis, her fiancé, was still smiling, perhaps a little too widely. Prudence Mason, Elena's mother, surveyed the scene with a look of smug satisfaction. My uncle Roland and Tobias, Elena's brother, were still quiet, observing. Then a subtle shift in the atmosphere. The maitre d', the same one I'd seen on the phone earlier, entered the room, flanked by two servers. They weren't carrying dessert. Instead, they moved with a deliberate, almost ceremonial pace, each holding a silver tray. On one tray, under a gleaming cloche dome, was nothing, just the dome. On the other, a single gold-framed object. Intrigued whispers rippled through the room. Heads turned. Elena paused mid-laugh, her eyes narrowing slightly as the maitre d' approached her table. The servers placed the empty cloche dome in front of her, then the tray with the gold frame. The maitre d', his face impassive, addressed Elena directly, his voice clear and resonant, carrying easily through the suddenly quiet room. "Ms. Mason, on behalf of Gourmet Galore, thank you for celebrating with us today. We hope you and your guests enjoyed the service." He paused, then picked up the gold frame. "And here is the final statement for today's services, as requested." He presented the gold frame to Elena. Her smile faltered. Her eyes, wide and confused, dropped to the frame. She picked it up, her fingers trembling slightly. The room was utterly silent now, every eye fixed on her. Even Natasha, her phone forgotten, was staring. Elena's eyes scanned the document. Her face, which moments before had been radiant, drained of all color. It went from pale to ashen, then to a sickly green. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. Her grip on the frame loosened, and it clattered onto the table, the glass reflecting the horrified expression on her face. The maitre d' continued, his voice unwavering, as if reading from a script. The total for today's services is $7,426.20, gratuity not included. With appreciation to Vanessa Burke for covering the account. A collective gasp filled the room. It was loud, almost physical. A few people choked on their champagne. Elena's eyes, wide and horrified, darted to me. Her champagne flute, still in her hand, slipped from her grasp and shattered on the marble floor, the sound echoing in the stunned silence. I met her gaze, a small, knowing smile playing on my lips. I slowly, deliberately raised my own glass of sparkling cider. I was still on the clock, technically, and didn't want to mix alcohol with my current state of focused vindication. I added a 25% tip, I announced, my voice clear and steady, cutting through the stunned silence, for hospitality and shame. The words hung in the air, more gasps. Some people looked between me and Elena, then back at the maitre d', their expressions a mixture of shock and dawning comprehension. Prudence Mason's face was a mask of furious disbelief, her eyes darting from the bill to me, then to her son Tobias, who, for the first time all day, looked genuinely interested, a faint, almost imperceptible smirk touching his lips. Roland Mason, my uncle, just looked down at his plate, shaking his head slowly. Davis Kent, Elena's fiancé, looked utterly bewildered, his eyes wide as saucers. Elena, her face a contorted mask of humiliation and rage, pushed back from the table so violently her chair scraped loudly across the floor. She scrambled to her feet, knocking over a water glass, and stumbled away from the table, her silk jumpsuit a blur as she stormed out of the room, leaving a trail of shattered glass and stunned silence in her wake. The maitre d' gave me a discreet, almost imperceptible nod of thanks before he and his servers quietly exited the room. The silence didn't last. Whispers began to stir, growing louder beyond Elena's immediate humiliation. People were talking, not just about the bill, but about me, about the grocery store cake, about the Tiffany's caption, and now about the $7,126.20 bill and the 25% tip. I took a slow sip of my cider, the sweet liquid tasting like victory. The show was just beginning. The room was a cacophony of hushed conversations and stunned expressions after Elena stormed out. No one was laughing now. No one was looking at my thrifted dress or my $14.99 cake. They were looking at me and then at their phones. I saw Natasha Wong, Elena's maid of honor, her face pale, frantically tapping on her screen. Too late, honey. The internet is forever. I stayed for another 10 minutes, just long enough to make my point, then quietly slipped out. The valet surprisingly didn't look at my Civic with disdain this time. He just looked at me, a flicker of something like respect in his eyes. Later that evening, my phone started blowing up, not with hate messages, surprisingly. At first, it was a trickle. A few of Elena's socialite friends, the ones who had giggled at Natasha's post, were sliding into my DMs. OMG, Vanessa, I am so sorry. I had no idea. Elena is just a lot. That was epic. Honestly, she deserved it. Can't believe she tried to stick us with the bill. The apologies were private, of course, probably sent from behind locked doors, far from Prudence Mason's watchful eye. Then Hope Ramirez texted me. Vanessa, the video. It's everywhere. Natasha deleted her story, but it's too late. Someone else filmed it. My heart gave a little jump. I opened Instagram again, and there it was. Not Natasha's mocking photo, but a full-blown video. Someone, probably one of the cater servers, had filmed the entire reveal. The maitre d' presenting the bill, Elena's face draining, the shattered flute, my calm declaration about the tip. Someone had even set it to dramatic music. It was already viral, racking up hundreds of thousands of views. The comments were a mix of outrage and pure, unadulterated glee. Bridal shower, gate, cake gate, pay, your bills, Elena. Just as I was scrolling through the comments, my phone rang. It was Prudence Mason, Elena's mother. I almost didn't answer, but I did. Vanessa. Her voice was tight, strained, devoid of its usual frosty composure. What in God's name was that? A bill, Aunt Prudence, I said, my voice calm, almost bored. Someone had to pay it. You humiliated her, she practically shrieked. You humiliated us. This is all over the internet. What possessed you to do something so attention-seeking? Attention-seeking, I scoffed. Aunt Prudence, for years I've been invisible to you, or worse, a punchline. Remember my shoes at the picnic? Remember how you always made it clear I wasn't one of them? Remember how my dad's family, which your family, treated my mom and me after he left? I've been trying to be invisible for years. This was just me finally showing up. This has nothing to do with that, she snapped. This is about a party, a gift. You brought a cheap cake and then you tried to make a spectacle. The cheap cake was a gift, yes, I countered. A last-minute one, because I was busy working 2 jobs, something you wouldn't understand. And the spectacle, that was Elena's choice, trying to sift the caterers and expecting her guests to bail her out. I just facilitated the payment. And for the record, I was told she expected guests to cover their contribution, so I contributed. Quite generously, I might add. There was a beat of silence on the line. You think this is over? She finally hissed. This will have consequences, Vanessa, serious consequences. I'm sure it will, I said and hung up. I didn't expect it to be over. This was just the beginning. The video was spreading like wildfire. My phone pinged again, an email from a media outlet. Dear Ms. Burke, we are writing to you in reference to a viral video circulating online depicting an incident at a recent bridal shower. We would be very interested in hearing your side of the story. Please contact us at your earliest convenience. My heart hammered again, but this time it wasn't from fear. It was from something else, something like opportunity. The media requests kept pouring in, local news, online tabloids, even a few national morning shows. I ignored most of them, unsure how much more I wanted to expose myself or my family to public scrutiny. I wasn't looking for fame, just justice. Then a few days later, my phone rang again. This time it was Uncle Roland. His voice was tired, resigned. Vanessa, it's Roland. Prudence and we need you to stay quiet. Please don't talk to the press. Why? I asked, genuinely curious. Because it's embarrassing for Elena? Or because it's exposing how you all operate? It's more complicated than that, he sighed. Davis, Elena's fiancé, he's furious. He apparently had no idea Elena planned to pass the cost to guests. He thought his family was handling it or that Elena had secured the account herself. He's saying he didn't sign up for this kind of deception. Good for him, I muttered. No, Vanessa, it's not good, Roland continued. His family, the Kents, they were sponsoring a significant portion of the wedding, a very significant portion, and they just pulled their sponsorship completely. The wedding is in jeopardy. My jaw dropped. That was a bigger fallout than I'd anticipated. A wedding sponsor pulling out? That was serious money. Elena is spiraling, he added, his voice laced with a genuine concern that surprised me. She's locked herself in her room. She's blaming everyone, especially you. I didn't feel bad. Not really. I was dealing with my own kind of spiral. The online world was a wild place. On one hand, I was being hailed as an underdog icon by service workers, by anyone who'd ever felt overlooked or undervalued. Comments like, "This is for every time they look down on us," and "Queen of the working class" flooded my DMs. It was oddly validating. On the other hand, there were the inevitable trolls, calling me a gold digger, jealous, classless. I tried to ignore them, but some of it stung. Hope called me later that day, her voice hushed. "Vanessa, I just left Elena's. It's bad. She's a wreck. Prudence is furious, but she's also trying to manage Elena. And Davis, he's gone. He packed a bag and left." "Wow," I said, genuinely surprised by the speed of the unraveling. She was saying she always resented you," Hope confided, her voice barely a whisper. "She said your dad, her uncle, leaving your mom and building a new family without them, without the Masons, felt like an abandonment. She saw it as him choosing to be lesser than the Masons, and that somehow reflected on her. She always felt like she had to be perfect, the golden child to make up for it. And you, just being you, reminded her of what she saw as her family's flaw." My stomach twisted. That was a new angle. I'd always thought it was about class, about me not being rich enough. But abandonment? A family flaw? It was a twisted logic, but it explained some of Elena's deep-seated bitterness beneath the shine. It didn't excuse her behavior, not by a long shot, but it added a layer I hadn't considered. "She's always been so obsessed with appearances," Hope continued, "and you just shattered hers." "Sometimes the truth shatters things," I said, my voice quiet. Later that evening, an email landed in my inbox. It wasn't from a media outlet. It was from a venture capitalist firm. "Dear Ms. Burke, we have been following the recent viral story involving you and your family. Your ingenuity and strategic thinking in a high-pressure situation have not gone unnoticed. We believe you possess a unique understanding of the event industry, particularly the intersection of service, client relations, and financial transparency. We are offering a business grant for event startups, and we would be very interested in discussing the possibility of you launching your own event coordination and catering service. Please contact us to schedule a meeting." I stared at the screen, my heart pounding. A business grant? From someone who saw the viral clip and saw not a scandal, but an opportunity? This wasn't just about revenge anymore. This was about building something real. Weeks turned into a month. The initial media frenzy around the bridal shower died down, replaced by other viral moments, but the ripples of that day continued to spread through the Mason family. Elena's wedding was postponed indefinitely. Davis Kent, true to his word, had walked away. I heard through Hope that he told Elena he didn't sign up for a relationship built on deception and elitism, especially not one that involved trying to pass off a 5-figure bill to guests. He was apparently a Wall Street guy, but he had a line, and Elena had crossed it. He'd moved out of their shared apartment and was reportedly back in New York. Elena was still holed up, a ghost of her former glamorous self. Prudence Mason, Elena's mother, had tried to do damage control, but the viral video was too pervasive. The Mason name, usually synonymous with old money and impeccable taste, was now linked to a scandal of cheapness and public humiliation. I heard they'd even had to cancel their annual charity gala because of negative press. Meanwhile, my life was unexpectedly taking off. I'd taken the meeting with the venture capitalist firm. It turned out the CEO, a formidable woman named Ms. Albright, had started her own business after facing similar classism in her early career. She saw my actions not as revenge, but as a bold, strategic move. She believed in my vision for an event service that prioritized transparency and genuine hospitality, something she felt was sorely lacking in the high-end market. The business grant was real. I attended a much quieter function a few weeks later, a charity fundraiser for single mothers, hosted by a friend of mine from college. It was held in a community hall, not a gated estate, and the food was potluck, not catered. But the atmosphere was warm, genuine. My friend, who knew about the viral video, formally thanked me for showing up for what's right. It was a small moment, but it felt more validating than any apology from Elena's circle. Hope Ramirez was there too, a quiet but steadfast presence. She'd been a lifeline through the chaos, sharing updates on Elena's meltdown and offering unwavering support. She was genuinely happy for me when I told her about the grant. "So what are you going to call it?" she asked, stirring her tea. I smiled. "Karmic tables. It's for events where everyone knows what they're getting and everyone is treated with respect. No hidden fees, no snobbery, just good food and good company." Hope's eyes lit up. "I love it. You know, I've been thinking, I'm tired of working for people like Elena. I've got some experience with social media and I'm pretty organized. Could I help you launch Karmic Tables? Like be your first employee?" I grinned. "Hope, I was hoping you'd ask." "You're hired." The Mason family might never reconcile with me. The chasm between us was too wide, too deep. But many truths had now surfaced. Elena's deep-seated insecurities, Prudence's controlling nature, Davis's surprising integrity. My own worth, too, had been revealed, not by their standards, but by my own. The revenge had landed, sweet and satisfying, and so had the karma. For them, a public fall from grace. For me, a chance to build something new, something real. My phone buzzed. A new friend request from Tobias Mason, Elena's older brother, the silent observer. I accepted it. Almost immediately, another message popped up, a link, and a short note. "You might find this interesting, publishing under a pen name." The link led to an online expose. The title read, "The Gilded Cage, Unmasking the Hypocrisy of High Society." It was a meticulously researched piece detailing various scandals, financial improprieties, and social machinations within the city's elite, including some very thinly veiled references to the Mason family. Tobias, it seemed, had finally found his voice. It's been a few months since the bridal shower. The $7,826.20 bill plus the 25% tip came out to a tidy $9,957.75. I paid it. It wasn't easy. I drained most of my savings, the ones I'd been meticulously building for a down payment on a small apartment, and took out a small, short-term loan to cover the rest. It felt like a gamble. A huge chunk of my financial security poured into a moment of calculated revenge, but it was also an investment. Now, several months on, Karmic Tables is more than just a name. Hope Ramirez, 26, is my full-time assistant, and she's a godsend. Her social media skills are legit, and she's helped me build a client base that values transparency and genuine service. We've done a few small events already. A launch party for a local artist, a community fundraiser, a low-key anniversary dinner. Nothing as lavish as Elena's shower, but each one has been profitable and the feedback has been overwhelmingly positive. The business grant from Ms. Albright's firm was the kickstart I needed, allowing me to invest in proper equipment in a small office space. I'm gaining clients, traction, and a real platform. The Mason family, meanwhile, is still reeling. Elena, 29, is reportedly still in a deep funk. Her wedding to Davis Kent, 33, isn't just postponed, it's off. Davis, it turns out, really did have a line he wouldn't cross. He didn't come back. The Mason name, once so pristine in their social circles, is now whispered about, synonymous with the Categate scandal. Prudence Mason, 55, Elena's mother, is apparently beside herself, trying to salvage their reputation, but it's a losing battle. The viral video, my 25% tip, Tobias's expose, it all chipped away at their carefully constructed facade. Speaking of Tobias, 30, his expose, The Gilded Cage, blew up in its own right. He didn't name names directly, but anyone in their circle knew exactly who he was talking about. He detailed the financial manipulations, the backroom deals, the casual cruelty of the elite, all under the guise of philanthropy and social grace. He'd clearly been sitting on this for years, observing silently, just as he had at the bridal shower. It hit the Masons hard, exposing them not just for the bridal shower fiasco, but for a pattern of behavior that went much deeper. Roland Mason, 57, my uncle, has been noticeably quieter at family functions, even more so than usual. I think he's finally seeing the full extent of the rot. I haven't spoken to Elena since that day. I don't expect to. The family may never reconcile, and honestly, I don't want them to. That part of my life, the part where I crave their acceptance, is over. What I brought to the table that day wasn't just a $14.99 cake. It was years of being overlooked, of being underestimated, of being made to feel like I didn't belong. It was the quiet strength I'd built from working hard, from cleaning up other people's messes, from understanding the mechanics of these lavish events from the ground up. I'm still Vanessa Burke, 27, still grounded, still observant. But now I'm also the founder of Karmic Tables. I paid off that bill, yes, and it stung a little. But the return on that investment, priceless. Most of all, I feel seen. Not by them, not by the Masons or their plastic smile friends, but by people who truly understand my worth, by clients who appreciate honest work, by service industry peers who saw me as one of their own, and by a venture capitalist who saw my potential. The cake may have cost $14.99, but the look on Elena's face when that gold-framed bill was delivered, priceless. They wanted me to be the embarrassment. They became the cautionary tale.
The first nail I ever hammered into that house was crooked. I should have seen it as an omen. My name is Taylor, and I spent 10 years building the perfect life with a man who turned out to be perfectly wrong for me. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start with the day it all came crashing down. Literally, as it would turn out. We need to talk. 4 words that can gut you faster than a rusty blade. Corbin said them while standing in our kitchen, the one with the custom backsplash I'd designed and installed myself. His hands were shoved deep in his pockets, and he wouldn't meet my eyes. I was stirring pasta sauce, something I'd done 1,000 times before in this exact spot. The wooden spoon felt heavier than usual. "Okay," I said, not turning around. "Talk." "Not here. Living room. The living room. Our living room. With the vaulted ceiling I'd calculated the load-bearing requirements for, the built-in shelves I'd measured and cut, the fireplace I'd helped lay stone by stone. Every weekend for 3 years, we'd worked on this house together. Or so I thought. I followed him, still holding the spoon like a weapon I didn't know how to use. He sat on the edge of the couch, the expensive one his mother Helen had insisted we buy. I remained standing. "I'm leaving," he said, just like that. No preamble, no explanation, just 2 words that erased a decade. "Leaving for where?" I asked, though something cold was already spreading through my chest. Leaving you, Taylor. I'm leaving you. The pasta sauce was still bubbling in the kitchen. I could hear it from here, a steady simmer that suddenly sounded like mockery. There's someone else, he continued, his voice gaining confidence now that the worst part was out. Her name is Jackie. It's been going on for a while. How long is a while? 6 months. 6 months. I'd been planning our 10th anniversary party for 6 months. I'd been researching vacation destinations, looking at new furniture, talking about maybe starting a family. For 6 months. She's pregnant, he said. The wooden spoon clattered to the hardwood floor, the floor I'd helped install, board by board. Congratulations, I heard myself say. My voice sounded like it was coming from underwater. Taylor, get out. This is my house too. Then I'll get out. Actually, he said, and something in his tone made my skin crawl. Mom thinks it would be better if you were the one to leave. The land was always in my name. Technically, you don't have any legal claim to... Your mother thinks? She's just looking out for the family. I am your family. Was your family. Jackie's having my baby, Taylor. That changes things. I stared at him. This man I'd loved since I was 26. This man I'd worked beside every weekend, mixing concrete and hauling lumber. This man who'd never once thanked me for the structural drawings I'd stayed up all night perfecting, or the permit applications I'd filled out because his handwriting was illegible. When do you want me gone? I asked. Soon. Jackie wants to move in next week. Next week. 10 years reduced to a 7-day notice. Fine. He looked surprised, like he'd expected me to fight, to scream or cry or beg. Instead, I bent down and picked up the wooden spoon. I need to turn off the stove, I said. As I walked back to the kitchen, my phone rang. Helen's name flashed on the screen. Hello, Helen. Taylor, dear. Her voice dripped with fake sweetness. I assume Corbin has spoken with you? He has. Good. I've taken the liberty of contacting a moving company. They can be there tomorrow morning to help you pack. I thought it would be easier for everyone if we handled this quickly and quietly. Quickly and quietly. Like I was a stain to be scrubbed away. How thoughtful of you. I've also spoken with our attorney, just to make sure there are no complications. You understand? I understood perfectly. Helen had been planning this conversation before I even knew Jackie existed. Of course, I said. No complications. Wonderful. I'm sure you'll land on your feet, dear. You're very resourceful. The way she said resourceful made it sound like an insult. After she hung up, I stood in my kitchen, their kitchen now, and smiled for the first time all day. They had no idea what they'd just done. They had no idea what I was capable of, and they definitely had no idea what I'd built into the very bones of this house. The moving boxes arrived at 7 a.m. sharp. Helen's efficiency was almost admirable. I was already dressed and had coffee brewing when the doorbell rang. 3 burly men stood on my porch, the porch I'd designed with a slight slope for drainage that Corbin had insisted was unnecessary. You Taylor? The lead guy asked. That's me. We're here to pack you up. Mrs. Thompson said you'd be ready. Mrs. Thompson. Helen was already erasing me from the family tree. Come on in, I said. I'll show you what needs to go. The truth was, I didn't have much. Most of our furniture had been wedding gifts from Helen's side of the family, and she'd made it clear through Corbin that those items were family heirlooms that would be staying put. I led them upstairs to our bedroom, my former bedroom, and started pulling clothes from the closet. The movers worked with practiced efficiency, wrapping everything in tissue paper like they were packing away a life that had never really mattered. That's when I heard her voice downstairs. Oh my God, it's even more beautiful than the photos. Jackie. She was here already, touring her new kingdom while I was still packing my exile. I walked to the top of the stairs and looked down. She was standing in the foyer, spinning in a slow circle with her arms outstretched. Her belly was just starting to show, maybe 4 months along. She was younger than I'd expected, with glossy brown hair and the kind of effortless beauty that comes from never having to work for anything. "Corbin, this is incredible," she gushed. "You built all of this yourself?"
"Well, I had some help," he said, not looking up at me. "But yeah, it was mostly my vision." His vision. I gripped the banister hard enough to leave marks. "The kitchen is gorgeous," Jackie continued, wandering toward the back of the house. "And this living room, it's like something from a magazine." "Wait until you see the master suite," Corbin said. "I designed it with a walk-in closet and— Excuse me." They both looked up. I was halfway down the stairs, carrying a box of my books.
"Hi," Jackie said, her smile faltering slightly. "You must be Taylor." "I must be. I'm Jackie. I just wanted to say, I hope there are no hard feelings. I mean, these things happen, right? Sometimes people just grow apart." I set the box down on the bottom step and really looked at her. She was beautiful, sure, but there was something calculating in her eyes, something that reminded me of Helen. "You're right," I said. "These things do happen. I'm so glad you understand. Corbin was worried you might be difficult." "Difficult?" "You know, bitter. Some women get really nasty during divorces." Corbin shifted uncomfortably. "Jackie, maybe we should—" "No, it's fine," I said. "I'm not bitter at all. Actually, I think you two are perfect for each other." Jackie beamed. "Really? That's so sweet of you to say." "I mean it. You deserve each other." Something in my tone made Corbin frown, but Jackie was too busy admiring the crown molding to notice. "This house is just perfect," she said. "I can't wait to raise our baby here. It feels so solid, so permanent, like nothing could ever go wrong." "Nothing at all," I agreed. One of the movers came downstairs with another box. "Ma'am, we found this in the bedroom closet. It was way in the back, behind some old coats." He handed me a small wooden box I'd forgotten about. Inside were my father's old tools, the ones he'd given me when I started studying architecture. His measuring tape, his level, his favorite pencil that he'd sharpened down to a stub. "What's that?" Jackie asked. "Nothing important," I said, closing the box. "Just some old junk." But as I held it, I remembered something else. Something I'd hidden away years ago, when Corbin and I were still in the planning stages of this house.
"Actually," I said to the mover, "there's one more thing upstairs. In the master bedroom, there's a built-in dresser. Bottom drawer, all the way in the back. There should be a manila envelope." "What's in it?" Corbin asked. "Just some old paperwork. Tax stuff, probably." He shrugged. "Whatever. Just make sure you get everything today. Jackie wants to start redecorating tomorrow."
The mover returned a few minutes later with the envelope. It was thicker than I'd remembered, stuffed with papers that would mean nothing to Corbin, but everything to the right person. "That's it then," I said, taking the envelope. "I think that's everything." "Great," Jackie said. "This is going to be such a fresh start for all of us." I walked toward the door, then paused and turned back. "Jackie?" "Yes?" "Just a word of advice. When you're redecorating, be careful about hanging anything too heavy on the walls, especially in the nursery. The studs aren't exactly where you'd expect them to be." She laughed. "Oh, I'm sure it'll be fine. Corbin built this place like a fortress, didn't you, honey?" "Like a fortress," I repeated. "That's one way to put it." As I walked to my car, I could hear Jackie chattering excitedly about paint colors and furniture arrangements. She had no idea she was making plans for a house built on lies. But she'd learn. They both would. I was sitting in my new studio apartment, a glorified shoebox above a coffee shop, when someone knocked on my door. It was barely furnished, a mattress on the floor, a folding table, and boxes I hadn't bothered to unpack. "Taylor, it's me, Marley." I hadn't heard my sister's voice in 5 years. I opened the door to find her standing in the hallway, holding 2 cups of coffee and looking like she'd rather be anywhere else. "How did you find me?" I asked.
Helen posted about the divorce on Facebook. Very classy, by the way. She made it sound like you abandoned poor Corbin. Of course she did. Can I come in? I stepped aside. Marley walked into my pathetic little space and tried not to let her shock show on her face. Coffee? She offered, holding out one of the cups. Thanks. We sat on opposite ends of my mattress like awkward teenagers. The silence stretched between us, filled with 5 years of unfinished arguments and hurt feelings. I should have called sooner, she finally said. Should have, could have, would have. I was angry, Taylor. After Mom's funeral, when you just disappeared, I didn't disappear. I got married and moved on with my life. You cut me out completely. No calls, no visits, no wedding invitation. You made it pretty clear you thought I was selfish for not dropping everything to take care of Mom. She was dying, Taylor. And I was 26 years old, trying to build a career and a marriage. I couldn't put my entire life on hold. Marley stared into her coffee. She asked for you, at the end. The words hit me like a slap. Don't. I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm just saying, you're just saying I'm a terrible daughter who abandoned her dying mother. I got the message 5 years ago. That's not what I meant. Then what did you mean? She looked up at me, and I saw tears in her eyes. I meant I was scared and angry, and I needed someone to blame. It was easier to blame you than to accept that she was really gone. I set down my coffee cup. Marley, I was wrong, Taylor. I should have supported you instead of attacking you. I should have been a better sister. We both could have been better. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. So what happened with Corbin? Helen's version makes you sound like a psycho ex-wife. Helen's version is bullshit. He cheated on me for 6 months, got his girlfriend pregnant, and then kicked me out of the house I helped build. Jesus. And now they're living happily ever after in my dream home while I'm sleeping on a mattress in a studio apartment. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. Be useful. Marley raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? I got up and pulled the manila envelope from one of my boxes. I dumped the contents onto the mattress between us. Blueprints, permit applications, inspection reports, photographs. What is all this? She asked. Evidence. She picked up one of the blueprints. Evidence of what? Corbin cut corners during construction. Big corners. Dangerous corners. I documented everything. Why? Because I knew this day would come. Maybe not exactly like this, but I knew he'd eventually show his true colors. Marley studied the papers. I don't understand half of this stuff. You don't need to, but I know someone who will. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through my contacts until I found the number I was looking for. Anton? This is Taylor Ray. Yes, from the Morrison Project 3 years ago. I'm good, thanks. Listen, I need to report some code violations. No, not my project. Someone else's anonymous tip. Yeah, I can do that. I gave him the address of my former house and hung up. Who was that? Marley asked. Building inspector. Very thorough guy. Very by the book. Taylor, what are you planning? I'm not planning anything. I'm just making sure the proper authorities are aware of some safety concerns. This is about revenge. This is about justice. What's the difference? I gathered up the papers and put them back in the envelope. Revenge is emotional. Justice is factual. And if someone gets hurt, no one's going to get hurt. Scared, maybe. Inconvenienced. Definitely. But not hurt. Marley stood up and started pacing my tiny apartment. This is crazy, Taylor. What's crazy is letting them get away with stealing my life. So you're going to destroy theirs? I'm going to let the truth destroy theirs. There's a difference. She stopped pacing and looked at me. What do you need from me? I need a lawyer. Someone discreet. I know someone. Albert. He's good, and he doesn't ask too many questions.
Perfect. But Taylor, promise me something. What? Promise me this won't consume you. Promise me you won't become someone you can't live with. I looked around my pathetic little apartment, then back at my sister, the only family I had left. I promise, I said. But we both knew I was lying. Albert's office smelled like old leather and disappointment. He was exactly what I'd expected. Gray hair, expensive suit, and the kind of tired eyes that had seen too many messy divorces. Marley says you need some legal advice, he said, gesturing for me to sit. I need protection. From what? I slid a folder across his desk. I'm about to report some building code violations. I want to make sure I'm covered legally. He opened the folder and whistled low. These are serious violations. Foundation issues, electrical problems, unpermitted additions, all documented. You took these photos? During construction. My ex-husband insisted on cutting corners. I tried to talk him out of it. Albert flipped through the pictures. Do you have any written record of your objections? I pulled out my phone and showed him a series of text messages. Taylor, the inspector is going to flag the electrical work if we don't fix it. Corbin, it's fine. No one will ever know. Taylor, this isn't safe. Corbin, you worry too much. Trust me. There are dozens more like that, I said. And you're reporting this now because I don't want anyone to get hurt. Albert gave me a look that said he'd heard that line before. And it has nothing to do with your recent divorce? My motivations don't matter. The violations are real. Fair enough. He closed the folder. You're protected under whistleblower laws. As long as everything you're reporting is factual. It is. Then you're in the clear. But Taylor? Yeah? Be careful. This kind of thing has a way of spiraling. I left Albert's office and drove to an electronics store across town. I paid cash for a burner phone and activated it under a fake name. Then I sat in my car and made the call. City Building Department, this is Anton. I'd like to report some code violations. Okay, I'll need your name and I'd prefer to remain anonymous. That's fine. What's the address? I gave him Corbin's address, my old address. What kind of violations are we talking about? Anton asked. Foundation issues. The retaining wall on the east side of the property was built without proper drainage. There's also unpermitted electrical work in the basement and garage. How do you know about these issues? I was involved in the construction. As a contractor? As an architect? There was a pause. Can you be more specific about the foundation problems? The retaining wall is going to fail. Probably within the next few months, especially if we get heavy rain. When it does, it'll take part of the house with it. That's a serious allegation. It's a serious problem. I'll need to schedule an inspection. You should probably do it soon. I hung up and drove home. Marley was waiting in my apartment with Chinese takeout. How did it go with Albert? She asked. Good. I'm covered. And I made the call. She set down her chopsticks. Taylor, I've been thinking about this all day. What if you're wrong? What if the house is actually safe? It's not. But what if... Marley, I was there for every day of construction. I know exactly what corners Corbin cut and why. The foundation is compromised, the electrical work is a fire hazard, and the plumbing in the master bathroom is going to fail within a year. How can you be so sure? I pulled out my father's old notebook, the one I'd been carrying since I moved out. It was filled with his handwriting, notes about structural integrity and building codes. Dad taught me that a house is only as strong as its weakest point. He used to say that cutting corners doesn't save money, it just delays the bill. So you're collecting on Corbin's bill? I'm making sure the bill gets paid. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Inspection scheduled for tomorrow at 10 a.m. Property owner has been notified. That was fast, Marley said, reading over my shoulder. Anton's thorough. He doesn't mess around with safety issues. What happens now?
Now we wait. But we didn't have to wait long. My phone rang 20 minutes later. Corbin's name flashed on the screen. Hello, Corbin. What the hell did you do? I don't know what you mean. The city called. They're sending an inspector tomorrow. They said someone reported code violations. That's concerning. You should probably make sure everything is up to code. Taylor, I know this was you. I have no idea what you're talking about. This is harassment.
This is a safety inspection. If you have nothing to hide, you have nothing to worry about. I'm calling my lawyer. You do that. I hung up. Marley was staring at me. You enjoyed that, she said. A little. This is really happening. This is really happening. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a text from Helen. We need to talk. I showed Marley the message. You going to respond? She asked. Not yet. Let her sweat. Taylor? What? Promise me you know what you're doing. I looked out my tiny window at the city lights below. Somewhere out there, Corbin and Jackie were probably panicking, trying to figure out how to explain away years of shortcuts and lies. I know exactly what I'm doing, I said. And for the first time in months, that was completely true. The inspection was scheduled for 10 a.m. I was parked across the street by 9:30. Anton arrived right on time in his white city vehicle. He was a tall, methodical man who took his job seriously, exactly the kind of person you wanted inspecting a house built on lies. Corbin met him at the front door. Even from across the street, I could see the tension in his shoulders. Mr. Thompson, I'm Anton from the building department. We spoke yesterday. Right, yes. Come in. I have to say, I'm not sure why this is necessary. The house has been fine for years. That's what we're here to determine. They disappeared inside. I settled in to wait. My phone rang. Helen. Taylor, we need to discuss the situation. What situation? Don't play dumb with me. You reported Corbin to the city. I have no idea what you're talking about. This is petty, even for you. Helen, if there are legitimate safety concerns about the house, shouldn't you want them addressed? Especially with Jackie being pregnant? There was a long pause. What do you know about safety concerns? I know Corbin cut a lot of corners during construction. You're lying. Am I? Ask him about the retaining wall. Ask him about the electrical work in the basement. Ask him about the permits he never pulled. He wouldn't. He would. And he did. I have documentation. Another pause. What do you want? I don't want anything, Helen. I just want everyone to be safe. This is about money, isn't it? You want some kind of settlement. I want justice. How much? You can't buy your way out of this one. I hung up and watched as Anton emerged from the house. He walked around to the backyard, then spent a long time examining the retaining wall. He took photos, made notes, and shook his head several times. This was going better than I'd hoped. My phone buzzed with a text from Marley. How's it going? Better than expected. Are you sure about this? Too late to back out now. Anton spent another hour inside the house. When he finally came out, Corbin followed him to his car. Their conversation looked heated. After Anton left, I watched Corbin pace back and forth on the front lawn, talking frantically on his phone. Then Jackie came outside. Even from across the street, I could see she was crying. My phone rang again. This time it was a number I didn't recognize. Hello? Is this Taylor Ray? Who's asking? This is Anton from the city building department. I understand you may have some information about the property at... He rattled off Corbin's address. I might. Could we meet? I have some questions about the construction history. I thought this was an anonymous tip. It was. But I need more details, and you seem to know this property well. When and where? There's a coffee shop on 5th Street, Brewster's. Can you meet me there in an hour? I'll be there. I drove to Brewster's and found Anton sitting in a corner booth, surrounded by paperwork. He looked up when I approached. "Taylor? That's me. Thanks for coming. Can I buy you a coffee?" "Sure." He returned with 2 cups and slid into the booth across from me. "So," he said, "tell me about this house. What do you want to know?" "Everything, starting with the foundation." I pulled out my phone and showed him the photos I'd taken during construction. The retaining wall was built without proper drainage. Corbin insisted it would be fine, but I knew it wouldn't hold up long term. Anton studied the photos. "These are very detailed." I documented everything. Why? Because I knew he was making mistakes that could hurt someone. "And you didn't report it at the time?" "I was married to him. I thought I could convince him to fix things." "But you couldn't." He said I was being paranoid, that I worried too much. Anton flipped through more photos. "What about the electrical work?" "All unpermitted. The previous owner had started some renovations in the basement, but never finished them. Corbin just built around the existing work instead of bringing it up to code. And the plumbing? The master bathroom addition was never properly connected to the main sewer line. It's been backing up into the foundation for months." Anton looked up from the photos. "How do you know all this?" "Because I'm an architect, and because I helped build that house from the ground up. But your name isn't on any of the permits." Corbin didn't want to pay the fees for having a licensed architect involved. He thought he could handle it himself. And now? Now he's about to find out what happens when you build a house on lies. Anton closed his notebook. "I have to ask, is this about revenge?" "It's about safety. That house is going to hurt someone if these problems aren't fixed." "And it has nothing to do with your recent divorce?" "My marriage is over, but that doesn't change the fact that the house is dangerous." Anton studied my face for a long moment. "I believe you. What happens now?" "I issue my report. The property owner has 30 days to address the violations or face condemnation proceedings. And if he doesn't fix them, then the city steps in." I finished my coffee and stood up. "Thank you for taking this seriously. Thank you for coming forward. Not everyone would." As I walked back to my car, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "You bitch, you're going to pay for this." I screenshotted the message and forwarded it to Albert. Then I drove home, where Marley was waiting with a bottle of wine and a worried expression. "How did it go?" she asked. "Anton believes me. He's issuing a report. And then? Then Corbin has 30 days to fix everything." "Will he?" I opened the wine and poured 2 glasses. "He can't afford to. The repairs would cost more than the house is worth." "So what happens?" "The city condemns the property." Marley raised her glass. "To justice? To consequences." We clinked glasses, but I could see the worry in her eyes. "Taylor, what if this goes too far?" "It's already gone too far. The question is whether it goes far enough." The official report came out 3 days later. I didn't have to read it. I could hear the fallout from across town. My phone started ringing at 7 a.m. Corbin, Helen, even Jackie called from different numbers. I let them all go to voicemail. By noon, there was a news van parked outside the house. I drove by and saw a reporter interviewing neighbors while Corbin stood on his front porch, gesturing wildly. "Turn it up," I told Marley. We were watching the evening news from my couch. "Serious structural violations that could pose a danger to residents," the reporter was saying. "The city has issued an emergency evacuation order pending repairs that could cost upwards of $200,000. The camera cut to Corbin. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. "This is harassment, plain and simple," he said. "My ex-wife is trying to destroy my life because she's bitter about our divorce." "Do you have any evidence of that?" the reporter asked. "She's an architect. She knows exactly what to say to make the city panic." "But are the violations real?" Corbin's jaw tightened. "The house has been perfectly safe for years." That's not what the inspector's report says. The camera cut back to the reporter. The property owner has 30 days to complete the necessary repairs or face condemnation proceedings. We'll continue following this story as it develops. Marley muted the TV. He looked terrible. Good. Taylor, what? Maybe this is enough. Maybe you should let it go now. Before I could answer, my phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Is this Taylor Ray? Who's asking? This is Francisco from Demolition Solutions. I got your number from a mutual friend. I sat up straighter. Francisco was the foreman I'd worked with on the Morrison project 3 years ago. He was thorough, professional, and completely by the book. Francisco, hi. What can I do for you? I heard about a property that might need emergency demolition. Structural collapse risk? Where did you hear that? Word gets around in this business. The address you gave me, I drove by yesterday. That retaining wall is in bad shape. How bad? Bad enough that I wouldn't let my crew work near it. If that thing goes, it's taking part of the foundation with it. What would you recommend? Honestly, tear it down before it falls down. It's safer and cheaper in the long run. How long would something like that take? If we got the permits? 2 days, maybe 3. But the owner would have to request it. And if the city ordered it? Emergency demolition? We could start tomorrow. I looked at Marley, who was shaking her head frantically. Francisco, hypothetically, what would trigger an emergency demolition order? Imminent collapse risk. If an inspector determined the structure was about to fail and posed a danger to neighboring properties. How imminent is imminent? Could be anything. Heavy rain, minor earthquake, even a strong wind. That retaining wall is a ticking time bomb. Thanks for the information. Taylor, be careful with this one. I've seen what happens when these old foundations let go. It's not pretty. After I hung up, Marley grabbed my arm. You're not seriously thinking about... I'm not thinking about anything. I'm just gathering information. This is insane. Someone could get hurt. No one's going to get hurt. They've already been evacuated. What about the neighbors? What about them? Their houses could be damaged. Their houses were built to code. They'll be fine. Marley stood up and started pacing. This has gone too far, Taylor. You need to stop. I can't stop. It's out of my hands now. You could call Anton. Tell him you made a mistake. I didn't make a mistake. You could... My phone rang. Helen. What do you want, Helen? I want to make a deal. I'm listening. $50,000. Cash. You call off your inspector friend and make this go away. I can't make it go away. The report is already filed. Then fix it. Say you were wrong. I wasn't wrong. 100,000. Helen. 200,000. That's my final offer. You don't have $200,000. I'll get it. I'll mortgage my house if I have to. Why would you do that? Because that house is Corbin's future. It's Jackie's future. It's my grandchild's future. Your grandchild's future was built on lies. Everything is built on lies, Taylor. The difference is knowing when to stop digging. Maybe you should have thought of that before you kicked me out. I was protecting my family, and I'm protecting mine. What family? You don't have anyone. The words hit like a physical blow. I have Marley, one sister who ignored you for 5 years. That's your family? It's more than you'll have when this is over. I hung up and immediately called Francisco back. It's Taylor again. That property we discussed. How quickly could you get an emergency demolition permit? If the city inspector recommends it, 24 hours. And you'd be available? For you? Always. I'll be in touch. Marley was staring at me in horror. Taylor, please, don't do this. It's already done.
No, it's not. You can still walk away. Walk away to what? My studio apartment? My empty life? They took everything from me, Marley. Everything. So you're going to take everything from them? I'm going to let the truth take everything from them. What's the difference?
I looked out my window at the city lights, thinking about Corbin and Jackie huddled in some hotel room, probably fighting about whose fault this was. Thinking about Helen, frantically calling lawyers and trying to find someone to blame. The difference is that when it's over, I'll be able to sleep at night. Will you? I didn't answer, because I wasn't sure. But I was sure about one thing. It was too late to stop now. The wheels were already in motion, and tomorrow, everything would come crashing down. The rain started at midnight. By morning, it was coming down in sheets. I was drinking coffee and watching the weather report when my phone rang. Anton. Taylor, we have a problem. What kind of problem? The retaining wall at your ex-husband's property. It's starting to buckle. With this rain, we're looking at imminent collapse. How imminent? Hours, maybe less. I'm issuing an emergency demolition order. What does that mean? It means we're tearing it down today before it takes out the neighbor's garage. After he hung up, I sat in my kitchen listening to the rain pound against my windows. This was it. The moment I'd been building toward for weeks. My phone buzzed with a text from Francisco. Got the call. Crew assembles at noon. You coming to watch? Wouldn't miss it. Marley emerged from my bathroom, already dressed. Where are you going? I asked. With you. You don't have to. Yes, I do. If you're really going through with this, you shouldn't be alone. We drove through the rain in silence. The streets were flooded in places, and I had to take several detours. By the time we reached Corbin's neighborhood, there were already news vans lining the street. I parked across from the house and stared. The retaining wall was visibly sagging, water pouring over the top and pooling around the foundation. The basement windows were dark with moisture. Jesus, Marley whispered. It really is going to collapse. I told you. Francisco's crew was setting up equipment in the driveway. The demolition truck looked massive next to the house I'd once called home. There's Corbin, Marley said. He was standing on the sidewalk with Jackie and Helen, all of them soaked despite their umbrellas. Jackie was crying. Helen was on her phone, probably screaming at some lawyer. A reporter approached them with a camera crew. Mr. Thompson, how do you feel about losing your home? This is all my ex-wife's doing, Corbin said, his voice cracking. She's destroying my family out of spite. But the city inspector says the structural damage is real. The damage is real now because she made sure it would be. The reporter looked confused. What do you mean? She knew about these problems during construction. She could have fixed them then, but she didn't. She waited until she could use them as weapons. Are you saying she deliberately sabotaged your home? Helen stepped forward. That's exactly what we're saying. This woman is vindictive and dangerous. I rolled down my window to hear better. Do you have any proof of sabotage? The reporter asked. She's an architect, Helen said. She knows exactly how to make a house fail. But wouldn't that be illegal? Of course it's illegal, but proving it is another matter. Francisco walked over to them, clipboard in hand. Folks, I need you to move back. We're starting in 10 minutes. Wait, Jackie said, her voice barely audible over the rain. Can't we save anything? The baby's nursery? Our photos? Ma'am, the evacuation order was issued 3 days ago. Anything you needed should have been removed then. But we thought, I'm sorry, it's not safe to go back inside. Jackie collapsed against Corbin, sobbing. For a moment, I felt something that might have been guilt. Then I remembered Jackie spinning in my foyer, talking about fresh starts and redecorating. I remembered Helen's voice on the phone, cold and dismissive. I remembered Corbin sitting on our couch, telling me he was leaving.
The guilt faded. Francisco's crew fired up the equipment. The sound was deafening, even from across the street. Last chance to stop this, Marley said. I'm not stopping anything. I'm just watching. The first swing of the wrecking ball took out the front porch. The porch I'd designed with proper drainage that Corbin had insisted was unnecessary. The wood splintered like kindling. The crowd gasped. Someone screamed. The second swing took out the living room wall. I could see inside now, see the built-in shelves I'd measured and cut, the fireplace I'd helped build stone by stone. Everything was getting destroyed. But it wasn't my home anymore. It hadn't been my home the moment Corbin told me to leave. The retaining wall went next, collapsing in a rush of mud and concrete. Water poured into the basement, and I could hear the electrical system shorting out. "The foundation's compromised," Francisco called out. "We need to take down the whole structure." More swings. More destruction. The kitchen where I'd cooked 1,000 meals. The bedroom where I'd planned our future. The bathroom where I'd gotten ready for our wedding. All of it reduced to rubble in less than an hour. When it was over, there was nothing left but a pile of broken wood, twisted metal, and shattered dreams. The news crews were interviewing anyone who would talk. The neighbors were complaining about property values. Francisco was explaining structural engineering to reporters who didn't understand half of what he was saying. And Corbin was standing in the rain, staring at the wreckage of his life. I got out of my car and walked over to the debris pile. I found a piece of the walkway I'd laid myself, a smooth river stone I'd picked out because it reminded me of my father's garden. I slipped it into my pocket. "Taylor." I turned. Corbin was standing behind me, his face streaked with rain and tears. "Are you happy now?" he asked. "I'm satisfied." "You destroyed everything." "No, Corbin, you destroyed everything. I just made sure everyone could see it." He stared at me for a long moment, then walked away. I got back in my car, where Marley was waiting. "How do you feel?" she asked. I touched the stone in my pocket, the only piece of my old life worth keeping. "Free," I said. And for the first time in months, I meant it. The letter arrived on a Tuesday morning, 3 weeks after the demolition. I was grading papers at my kitchen table. I'd started teaching part-time architecture classes at the community college, when Marley knocked on my door. "Mail," she said, holding up an envelope with Corbin's handwriting. "Throw it away." "You sure? It feels thick." I took the envelope and weighed it in my hands. Whatever he had to say, I didn't want to hear it. But curiosity won. Inside were 3 pages of his messy handwriting and a cashier's check for $15,000. "What's the check for?" Marley asked, reading over my shoulder. "Guilt money." I skimmed the letter. It was full of apologies, excuses, and blame. He was sorry for cheating. He was sorry for kicking me out. But it was also my fault for not stopping him from cutting corners. My fault for documenting everything instead of fixing it. My fault for being vindictive. The last paragraph made me laugh out loud. "What's so funny?" "He wants to meet for coffee, to work things out like adults." "Are you going to?" I walked to my stove and turned on the burner. "What do you think?" The letter caught fire immediately. I held it over the sink and watched it burn, the words disappearing into ash. "And the check?" "That's going to charity." My phone rang. Anton. "Taylor, I wanted to give you an update." "What kind of update?" "The investigation into the property violations. We found some interesting things in the debris." "Such as?" "Unpermitted electrical work that goes back years. Tax documents showing the property was never properly assessed. And evidence of insurance fraud." "Insurance fraud?" "Your ex-husband filed claims for water damage that he caused himself by ignoring the drainage issues. The insurance company is very interested in talking to him." "What does that mean?" "It means he's got bigger problems than a demolished house." After Anton hung up, I sat at my table and stared at the check. $15,000. It wouldn't even cover a month's rent on the house I'd helped build. "You know what the worst part is?" I said to Marley. "What?" "He still doesn't get it. He thinks this was about revenge. Wasn't it? It was about consequences. There's a difference."
My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "This is Jackie. Can we talk?" I showed Marley the message. "You going to respond?"
I don't know, but I was curious. I texted back. "What do you want to talk about?" "I need to understand what happened." "You know what happened." "I know Corbin's version. I want to hear yours." I looked at Marley. "What do you think?" "I think you should hear what she has to say." We met at a coffee shop downtown. Jackie looked exhausted, her pregnancy more obvious now. She was alone. "Where's Corbin?" I asked. "Talking to lawyers. The insurance company is suing him." "I heard."
"He says you planned all of this, that you sabotaged the house during construction. What do you think?" She stirred her tea slowly. "I think he's a liar." "What makes you say that?" "Because I found the real construction photos on his computer. The ones showing all the problems you tried to warn him about." I leaned back in my chair. And I saw the text messages. All of them. You begged him to fix things. You offered to pay for proper permits. You told him someone could get hurt, but he didn't listen. No. He said you were being dramatic, that you just wanted to control everything. So why are you here, Jackie? She looked down at her belly. Because I need to know, was my baby ever in danger? The question hung between us like a weight. Yes, I said finally. The electrical work in what was going to be the nursery was a fire hazard. The foundation settling could have caused the floor to collapse, and the mold in the walls would have made the baby sick. Tears started rolling down her cheeks. He knew? He knew. And he was going to let us live there anyway? He was going to hope nothing bad happened. She wiped her eyes with a napkin. I'm leaving him. Good. I wanted to hate you. It would have been easier. Hate me anyway if it helps. It doesn't. She stood up. Thank you for telling me the truth. Jackie? Yeah? Get a good lawyer, and make sure the baby's paternity is documented. Corbin's going to try to run from his responsibilities. She nodded and walked away. I sat in the coffee shop for another hour, watching people hurry past the windows. Normal people with normal problems, going about their normal lives. My phone rang. Marley. Where are you? Coffee shop on Main Street. How did it go with Jackie? Better than expected. You coming home? Home. My tiny studio apartment above a coffee shop. It wasn't much, but it was mine. No lies built into the foundation. No shortcuts hidden in the walls. No one could take it away from me. Yeah, I said. I'm coming home. As I walked to my car, I pulled the river stone from my pocket, the one I'd taken from the wreckage. It was smooth and warm from being carried around for weeks. I thought about throwing it away, about leaving the past in the past. Instead, I put it back in my pocket. Some things are worth keeping, even after everything falls down. When they took my house, they thought I'd be empty. But now I am finally free. And that's worth more than any house they could ever build.
I stared at the stack of wedding invoices spread across my kitchen table, the numbers swimming before my eyes. $47,000, my entire savings account, drained for someone else's fairy tale. My name is Ariel, and I just realized I'd made the biggest mistake of my life. The save-the-date card that had arrived this morning sat mockingly beside the pile, its gold foil lettering catching the morning light. But it wasn't addressed to me. No, this one was meant for Sage, the supposed wedding coordinator who hadn't lifted a finger in 6 months of planning. My phone buzzed, another message from Athena. OMG, cuz, the venue looks amazing in the photos. Can you check if they'll let us add the crystal chandelier installation? I left it on red, picking up the venue contract instead. My signature was right there at the bottom. Not Athena's, not her fiancé Elias's. Mine, just like every other contract spread across my table. You're the only one I trust with this, Athena had said back in January, her eyes wide and pleading. My accounts are frozen because of that stupid banking error. Please, Ariel, I'll pay you back as soon as it's sorted. The memory made me wince. 6 months later, and I was still waiting for that first reimbursement. My phone rang. Layla, my best friend and voice of reason. "Tell me you're not still at those invoices," she said when I picked up. I wish I could say no. "I still can't believe you fronted the whole thing. You know Athena's frozen account story is bull, right? I saw her Instagram shopping haul yesterday." I rubbed my temples. "I know. She's family. And Aunt Clara was so excited about helping plan her only daughter's wedding." "Helping?" Layla scoffed. "You mean criticizing every decision while contributing exactly $0? She wasn't wrong. I thought back to last week's vendor meeting. Clara had swept in late, designer handbags swinging, and immediately started changing all my carefully negotiated arrangements. "The flowers should be peonies, not garden roses," she declared, waving her hand dismissively. "Ariel, dear, make it happen." I'd spent 3 hours afterward apologizing to the florist and paying the difference for the last-minute change. Another $1,000 I'd never see again. My doorbell rang. Speaking of flowers, that would be the sample centerpiece delivery. "Got to go, Layla. Delivery's here." "Wait, have you checked the guest list yet? Athena said it went live this morning." "No, why?" "Just check it. Call me back." The delivery guy helped me carry in the massive arrangement, all peonies, of course. As soon as he left, I pulled up the wedding website on my laptop. The password was still the one I'd set up months ago, Athena Lias 2023. The guest list loaded slowly, alphabetically. I scrolled through the B's, then again, and again. My name wasn't there. My phone buzzed with a text from Athena. "Centerpiece arrived yet? Send pics. BTW, keeping the wedding small. Hope you understand." I sat down hard, the chair scraping against my kitchen floor. Small? The guest list showed 250 people, including Sage, who'd done nothing but post Instagram stories about being the official wedding coordinator. Another text from Athena. "Also, can you transfer the final payment to the venue today? Winston's being super annoying about the deadline." My hands shook as I picked up the venue contract again. $47,000, my signature, my responsibility. The phone rang again. Layla. "You saw it, didn't you?" she asked quietly. "Yeah." My voice sounded strange, even to my own ears. "I saw it. What are you going to do?" I looked at the contract in my hands, then at the save the date addressed to Sage. 6 months of planning, countless hours of negotiations, my entire savings account, and I wasn't even worthy of an invitation. "Ariel." Something cold and calm settled over me as I traced my signature on the venue contract. "You know what's funny, Layla? They never actually read these contracts. Any of them." "What do you mean?" I smiled, though there was no humor in it. They don't know that legally. I'm the one who booked everything. Every vendor, every service, every single detail. It's all under my name." "Ariel!" Layla's voice held a note of warning. "What are you thinking?" I picked up the save the date card and slowly, deliberately, tore it in half. "I'm thinking it's time they learn to read the fine print." I found Athena at her favorite coffee shop, perfectly posed for her Instagram stories with an untouched latte and her massive engagement ring catching the light. She barely looked up when I slid into the seat across from her. "Hey, cuz," she said, still focused on her phone. "Did you send that venue payment? We need to talk about the guest list." She finally looked up, her perfectly lined eyes narrowing slightly. "Oh, that." "Yeah, that." I kept my voice steady, though my hands were trembling under the table. "Why wasn't I invited?" "Don't be dramatic, Ariel." She rolled her eyes, reaching for her latte. "We had to keep it intimate, only people who really helped with the wedding." The words hit like a physical blow. "People who really helped?" "Right, like Saigya. She's been absolutely incredible with coordinating everything." I pulled out my phone, opening my banking app. "Funny, because I have the receipts right here showing that I've paid for literally everything. $47,000 worth of help. Athena's perfectly painted lips twisted. Oh my God, are you seriously making this about money? That's so tacky. Tacky? My voice rose slightly, drawing looks from nearby tables. I drained my savings account for your wedding. Which you offered to do, she shot back. Nobody forced you, because you said your accounts were frozen. You said you'd pay me back. She waved her hand dismissively. And I will, eventually, but this isn't about that. This is about you trying to make my special day all about you. My phone buzzed. Aunt Clara's name flashed on the screen. Of course. You should get that, Athena said sweetly. Mom's been trying to reach you, I answered, putting it on the speaker. Hello? Ariel, darling, Clara's voice dripped honey-coated venom. Athena tells me you're making quite a scene at Riverside Coffee. I just asked why I wasn't invited to the wedding. Oh, sweetheart, she sighed dramatically. This is exactly why. You always need to be the center of attention. First with the vendor meetings, then insisting on handling all the contracts yourself. Because I paid for everything! The words burst out before I could stop them. Which we're very grateful for, Clara said smoothly. But this is Athena's day, not yours. Don't make this about you. I looked at Athena, still perfectly posed, probably already crafting the social media post about her dramatic cousin. 6 months of memories flashed through my mind, arguing with the caterer at midnight to get better prices, hand-testing every fabric sample for the table settings, spending weekends driving to venues. You're right, I said quietly. It's not about me. It never was. Exactly, Athena beamed. So we're good? Because I need you to call Winston about adding that chandelier. No. Both Athena and Clara fell silent. What do you mean, no? Clara's voice had lost its sweetness. I mean, no. I'm done. I stood up, gathering my things. Good luck with the wedding. Ariel! Athena's composure finally cracked. You can't just walk away. Who's going to handle everything? I'm sure Sage will do an amazing job. She's been absolutely incredible so far, right? My phone started ringing before I reached my car. Layla. How'd it go? I slumped against the steering wheel. They said they only invited people who really helped. They what? Layla's voice rose in outrage. After everything you did? After all the money? I know. My voice cracked. I know. What are you going to do? I stared at my reflection in the rearview mirror. The reliable cousin, the family fixer, the one who always said yes. Not anymore. Remember what you said about the contracts? Layla asked quietly. That they're all in my name? Yeah. And did you know most vendor contracts have a clause about who can make changes or cancellations? I sat up straighter. What are you saying? I'm saying maybe it's time to show them exactly how much you helped. Check your email. I just sent you something interesting from the venue's terms and conditions. I opened the email, scanning the highlighted section. A slow smile spread across my face. Layla, you're brilliant. I know. Now want to help me make some calls? I think it's time for a little contract review. My phone buzzed with another text from Athena. Don't be difficult. Just call Winston and fix the chandelier thing, and the final payment is due today. I turned off notifications and pulled up Winston's contact info instead. You're right, Athena, I murmured to myself. It is your special day. Let's make it really special. What are you thinking? Layla asked, hearing something in my voice. I'm thinking it's time to show them exactly what happens when you bite the hand that feeds you. I started the car. Meet me at my place in 20. We have some contracts to review. Layla spread the contracts across my living room floor like we were planning a heist. In a way, I suppose we were. Venue, flowers, catering, lighting, band, photo booth. She ticked them off on her fingers. All in your name, all paid from your account. I picked up the venue contract, the most expensive one. Winston was pretty clear about who could make changes. "Call him," Layla urged, already pulling up his number on my phone. "Do it now, before you lose your nerve." The phone rang 3 times before Winston's crisp voice answered. "Riverside Manor Events, Winston speaking." "Hi, Winston, it's Ariel. The one handling the Bryant Ward wedding next Saturday?" "Ah, yes, Ariel." His tone warmed slightly. "I've been trying to reach you about the final payment and that chandelier request. Actually, that's why I'm calling. There's going to be a change of plans." A pause. "What kind of change?" "I need to cancel the event." The silence stretched for several seconds. "Cancel? The entire wedding? With less than a week's notice?" "Yes." My voice was steadier than I expected. "As per Section 7.2 of our contract, I'm the only authorized party who can make such changes, and I'm making one now." Papers rustled on his end. "Let me check that. Yes, I see your signature here, but Ms. Bryant isn't on any of the paperwork," I finished, "and hasn't made any payments." "I see." His tone shifted from confused to professional. "You understand the cancellation fee at this stage would be substantial?" "I understand, but I also understand that as the contract holder, any refund would come to me directly." Another pause. "That's correct. Then please process the cancellation. And Winston, don't tell the wedding party yet. I'll handle that part." After hanging up, I looked at Layla. "One down." She was already dialing the florist. "Your turn to call the band. I've got the flower shop's number right here." The next hour passed in a blur of phone calls. Each vendor reacted differently, some confused, some understanding, one even relieved. That bride was becoming a nightmare. But they all had one thing in common. Legally, they could only take instructions from me. My phone kept buzzing with messages from Athena and Clara. I ignored them all. "Last one," Layla announced, hanging up with the photo booth company. "They're sending your refund minus the cancellation fee by Friday." I did the math in my head. I should get back about $22,000 total. Better than nothing. Layla gathered the contracts into a neat pile. "What now?" As if on cue, my brother Jeffrey's name flashed on my phone screen. I answered, putting it on speaker. "Ari, what the hell?" He sounded both worried and amused. "Athena's having a meltdown in our family group chat. Something about you not answering about wedding details?" "Check your email," I said. "I just sent you something." I heard him clicking, then a low whistle. "Holy! Is this real? All these contracts are in your name?" "Every single one." "And they didn't invite you to the wedding?" His voice hardened. "After you paid for everything?" "Apparently, I didn't really help enough." "That's messed up." A pause. "What did you do?" "What makes you think I did anything?" "Because I know that tone. That's your I just destroyed someone but they don't know it yet voice." I smiled despite myself. "Let's just say their perfect wedding might need some replanning." "Damn, Ari." He laughed softly. "About time you stood up to them." My phone buzzed again. A text from Winston. "Cancellation processed. Refund of $2,400 initiated to your account. As requested, wedding party not yet notified." "They're going to lose it when they find out," Jeffrey said, reading my silence. "You know that, right? They lost me first." I looked at the pile of contracts. They just didn't think it mattered. "Want me to be there when it all goes down?" "No," I said, thinking of the rehearsal dinner scheduled for tomorrow night. "But maybe keep your phone on." After hanging up, Layla handed me a glass of wine. "How does it feel?" I thought about Athena's dismissive wave, Clara's condescending tone, all those months of being used. Like karma needed a little push. Speaking of karma, Layla held up her phone, showing Athena's latest Instagram story, a boomerang of her toasting with sage, caption reading, "Final wedding week preparations with my amazing coordinator." Blessed bride. Should we tell Saige she's about to coordinate a wedding with no venue, no flowers, no music, And no photo booth? I took a sip of wine. Nah, let her find out with everyone else. Tomorrow's rehearsal dinner should be interesting. You're not going, are you? No, I picked up the venue contract one last time. But I might drive by, just to watch karma do its thing. My phone lit up with another message, this time from the band's manager. Cancellation confirmed. Refund processing. Good luck with everything. I smiled. After all, I did promise them a show. I sat in my car across from Riverside Manor, watching the wedding party arrive for the rehearsal dinner. Athena swept in, wearing white, of course, Saige trailing behind her with a clipboard she probably didn't know how to use. You sure about this? Layla asked from the passenger seat. Too late to back out now. I checked my watch. Band should be calling any minute. Right on cue, my phone buzzed with a text from Jeffrey. Band's manager just called Athena. You should hear the screaming. Through the venue's large windows, I could see the commotion unfolding. Athena was gesturing wildly, her face flushed even beneath her perfect makeup. Saige frantically dialed numbers on her phone while Clara paced, her designer heels clicking across the marble floor. 3, 2, 1, I counted down. The florist's call came right on schedule. Even from outside, we could hear Athena's shriek. What do you mean you can't come tomorrow? We have a contract. My phone lit up with a call from the florist, Maria. I answered, putting it on speaker. Ariel, I just called the bride like you asked. She's not taking it well. Did you tell her exactly what we discussed? Yes, that the contract holder, you, canceled the order. Maria paused. She's threatening to sue me. Send her the contract if she asks. Your legal obligation was to me, not her. Thank you for understanding. The refund should hit your account by... A sharp knock on my car window made me jump. Clara stood there, her face a mask of fury. I should go, I told Maria, hanging up. I rolled down the window. Hi, Aunt Clara. What did you do? Her voice trembled with rage. I'm not sure what you mean. Don't play innocent. The band just canceled. The florist, too. And Winston isn't answering our calls. I pulled out my phone, scrolling through emails. Oh, right. I made some changes to the contracts, the ones with my signature on them. You... Clara's perfectly manicured hand clutched her chest. You canceled everything? Not everything. I smiled pleasantly. Just the things I paid for, which is everything. You can't do this. Actually, I can. It's all very clearly stated in the contracts. You know, the ones none of you bothered to read? Behind Clara, I could see Athena storming toward us, Elias and Saige trying to keep up. You vindictive little... Clara started, but Athena cut her off. Fix this, she demanded, tears threatening to ruin her mascara. Call everyone back right now. Sorry, but I only helped with the wedding. You know, since I wasn't important enough to actually attend. Is that what this is about? Elias spoke up, looking uncomfortable. Not getting an invitation? No, I said quietly. This is about respect and consequences. Athena's phone rang, the catering company. Her face went pale as she answered. What? No, there must be some mistake, but we have 300 people coming tomorrow. I started my car. Better start making some calls, Saiji. Sounds like you have some coordinating to do. Wait, Clara grabbed my door handle. The deposits? What about all the money we paid? You mean the money I paid? Don't worry, the refunds are being processed. To my account, of course, since I'm the one who made the payments. You can't just... Can't what? Take back what's legally mine? I met her eyes. You should be thanking me. After all, I'm the only one who really helped with this wedding, right? Through the venue windows, I could see Winston finally emerging from his office. Athena rushed toward him, but he was already shaking his head. Time to go, I told Layla, putting the car in drive. Ariel, please, Athena's voice cracked. Everything's ruined. I paused, rolling down my window one last time. You know what's funny? If you just treated me like family, if you just shown an ounce of appreciation, I would have given you the wedding of your dreams. Instead, you showed me exactly what I meant to you. But you're my cousin, she whispered. No, I said, feeling oddly calm. I was your ATM. There's a difference. As we drove away, I could see Jeffrey in my rearview mirror, arriving just in time to witness the chaos. My phone buzzed with his message. Damn, sis. Remind me never to cross you. Layla squeezed my hand. You okay? I thought about the months of planning, the drained savings account, the casual cruelty of being excluded. Yeah, I think I am. What now? Now? I checked my bank app, watching as the first refund hit my account. Now we go home and wait for tomorrow. The actual wedding day? You think they'll still try to have it? I laughed softly. Oh, they'll try. But it's hard to have a wedding with no venue, no flowers, no food, no music. My phone lit up with another message, this time from Winston. Just showed them the contract. Ms. Bryant is not taking it well. Security on standby if needed. You know they'll never forgive you for this, Layla said quietly. I watched the venue disappear in my mirrors, along with all my family's expectations of their reliable, pushover cousin. Good, I said, because I'll never forget it either. The morning of what should have been Athena's wedding, I drove to the cemetery where my mother was buried. The grass was still wet with dew as I placed fresh flowers by her headstone. Hey, Mom, I whispered. I finally did it. I finally stood up for myself. My phone hadn't stopped buzzing since last night. The family group chat had exploded with relatives taking sides. Most backed Athena, the poor, devastated bride. A few, led by Jeffrey, defended me. A new notification popped up, Athena's latest TikTok. Her tear-stained face filled the screen as she sobbed about her jealous cousin who ruined everything out of spite. Your cousin did what? A voice behind me made me jump. It was Jasmine, the baker, carrying flowers of her own. She'd been my mother's favorite student when she taught high school. Jasmine, what are you doing here? Paying respects to my favorite teacher. She sat beside me. Now tell me why Athena's trending on social media, calling you a monster. I showed her the contracts on my phone, explained the uninvitation, the months of being used. So that's why you canceled the cake order. Jasmine shook her head. Girl, you should see what's happening online. The wedding community is blowing up. She pulled out her phone, showing me posts from various wedding vendors. They were sharing their experiences, my professionalism during planning, the detailed spreadsheets I'd made, the prompt payments, contrasted sharply with screenshots of Athena's demanding messages and Saji's clueless responses. The karma train is rolling, Jasmine grinned. Oh, and look who just went live. Elias appeared on screen, looking exhausted. I need to set the record straight. The wedding isn't happening today because my fiancé and her family took advantage of someone who tried to help us. I've seen the receipts. Ariel paid for everything, and we treated her like staff. My phone rang. Jeffrey. You watching this? He asked without preamble. Yeah. Didn't expect Elias to speak up. That's not all. Clara's outside your apartment building right now, making a scene. Security had to ask her to leave. I sighed. Of course she is. There's more, Jeffrey continued. Remember that wedding blog Athena was desperate to be featured in? The one she kept tagging in her posts? They want your side of the story. Apparently they've been getting flooded with messages from vendors backing you up. Jasmine nudged me, showing another TikTok. This one from Sage, trying to defend herself. I was the official coordinator. How was I supposed to know Ariel paid for everything? The comments were brutal. Some coordinator who didn't even check the contracts, and when you're so bad at your job you don't know who's actually paying. What are you going to do? Jasmine asked. About the blog? I traced my mother's name on the headstone. She'd always taught me to be kind, but also to know my worth. I think, I said slowly, it's time to tell the whole story. My phone buzzed again. A message from Winston. Just turned away 300 angry wedding guests. Your cousin tried to break in through the kitchen entrance. Should I press charges? Don't, I texted back. She's been punished enough. Another notification. My banking app. The last refund had arrived. $22,000 total recovered. Less than half of what I'd spent, but it felt like victory anyway. You know what's funny? I told Jasmine. They could have avoided all this by just treating me like family. Sometimes the most expensive lessons are the ones we don't pay for in money, she replied, sounding exactly like my mother. My phone lit up with another call, an unknown number. Hello? Is this Ariel? A professional voice asked. This is Madison from Modern Bride magazine. We've been following your story, and we'd love to feature it in our Real Wedding Drama section. Would you be interested in sharing your perspective? I looked at my mother's headstone, remembering how she always said the truth would set you free. Yes, I said. I would. After hanging up, I showed Jasmine another message that had just arrived from Athena. I hope you're happy. You've ruined everything. My life is over. Drama queen much? Jasmine rolled her eyes. What are you going to say to the magazine? I stood up, brushing grass from my knees. The truth. That sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about getting free. Your mom would be proud, Jasmine said softly. She always said you were stronger than you knew. As we walked back to our cars, my phone buzzed one final time. A text from Layla. Have you seen the wedding hashtag? It's trending for all the wrong reasons. I smiled, thinking of all those perfectly planned Instagram posts that would never happen. You know what, Mom? I whispered to the morning air. I think I finally learned how to write my own happy ending. You need to see this, Layla said, bursting into my apartment without knocking. She thrust her phone at me, Athena's latest TikTok playing on the screen. My cousin's face was streaked with mascara, her usually perfect hair disheveled. My jealous cousin destroyed my wedding because she wasn't invited, she sobbed. She's trying to ruin my life because she's bitter about being single. The video had already racked up millions of views. Read the comments, Layla urged. Show the receipts, one demanded. Where's the cousin side? Asked another. Something's not adding up here. My phone buzzed. Jeffrey again. Sis, you might want to check Elias's social media. I pulled up his profile to find a 3-minute video titled The Truth About the Wedding. I've stayed quiet long enough, Elias began, looking directly into the camera. Everyone's asking why Ariel would do this. Let me tell you what really happened. He held up his phone, scrolling through screenshots. Here's Athena asking her cousin to front the money. Here's Ariel paying every vendor. Here's my fiancé spending thousands on designer clothes while claiming her accounts were frozen. Oh, snap, Layla whispered. The final straw? Elias continued. They didn't even invite her to the wedding she paid for, called her just the help. I'm ashamed I didn't speak up sooner. The comments section exploded. This tea is scalding. Justice for Ariel! Bride and her mom sound toxic AF. My phone lit up with a call from Modern Bride magazine. Ariel? Madison here. Have you seen what's happening online? I'm watching it unfold. We want to run your story as our cover feature. The Wedding Planner's Revenge, a story of family, finance, and justice. What do you think? Before I could answer, my doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw Sag, looking decidedly less polished than usual. 1 second, I told Madison, opening the door. Please, Seiji burst out. You have to help me. They're destroying me online. I put the magazine on hold. Why would I help you? Because I'm losing followers by the minute. Everyone's calling me a fraud coordinator. Weren't you? She deflated. I just did what Athena told me to. She said you were just helping with money stuff. I didn't know that I did your entire job while you took the credit. My phone buzzed again, a notification from a major wedding planning website. Viral coordinator, exposed as fraud in wedding scandal. Sagi's phone dinged simultaneously. Her face crumpled as she read something. The influencer network just dropped me. Karma's having a busy day, Layla commented from behind me. I returned to my call with Madison. About that cover story? I'll do it, but I have conditions. Name them. I want to talk about financial abuse in families, about setting boundaries, about standing up for yourself. Even better, Madison said. Can you send us the contracts and receipts? Already compiling them. After hanging up, I found 17 missed calls from Clara. I played her voicemail on speaker. How dare you let Elias expose us like this? We're getting death threats. Athena can't leave the house. You've destroyed our family's reputation. Interesting how it's your reputation she's worried about, Layla observed, not the $47,000 she stole from you. My phone pinged with a message from Winston. Just got a call from a TV producer. Apparently your story's going viral. They want to film a segment at the venue. Thoughts? Before I could respond, Athena went live on Instagram. Her face appeared, surprisingly composed. I know you're all waiting for my response to Elias's video, she began. The truth is, I messed up. I got caught up in having the perfect wedding, the perfect social media story. I forgot about what really matters. Too little, too late, Layla muttered. Athena continued. Ariel, if you're watching this, I'm sorry. I was horrible to you. You deserved better. Comments flooded in. This apology seems fake. Damage control much? Where's the money you owe her? I turned off my phone and looked at Sage, still hovering in my doorway. You want to make this right? I asked her. She nodded desperately. Tell the truth, all of it. How Athena planned this from the start, how they used me. They'll hate me? They already do. At least this way you'll have your integrity. After she left, Layla pulled up another notification. Look, you're trending under Justice for Ariel? I thought about Athena's tearful videos, Clara's angry voicemails, Elias's expose, and now Athena's carefully crafted apology. You know what's funny? I said. They're so worried about their social media presence, they still don't get it. This was never about going viral. It was about standing up for myself. Speaking of standing up, Layla grinned, showing me one final notification. Elias just called off the engagement. I picked up my phone, opened the magazine's email, and began typing my story. Sometimes the best revenge isn't trending on social media. It's finally telling your truth. No filters needed. The morning my story hit Modern Bride's website, I woke up to my phone practically exploding with notifications. But the message that caught my eye was from Clara. We need to talk, in person. Don't go, Layla urged when I told her. It's a trap. I know, but I need to finish this. I met Clara at the same coffee shop where everything had started to unravel. She sat alone at a corner table, looking smaller somehow, less intimidating without her usual perfect facade. You look terrible, Lan, she said as I sat down. Hello to you too, Aunt Clara. She pushed her untouched coffee aside. Do you have any idea what you've done to this family? Funny, I was about to ask you the same thing. Athena's a mess. She barely eats. Elias won't return her calls. Our social circle... She swallowed hard. No one will talk to us. That must be difficult, I said, keeping my voice neutral. Almost as difficult as watching your savings disappear while your family treats you like an ATM. Is that what this was about? Money? She reached for her designer handbag. Fine. How much do you want? I laughed, the sound sharp enough to make nearby customers turn. You still don't get it, do you? Then explain it to me. Her composed mask finally cracked. Because I don't understand how you could do this to your own family. Family? I pulled out my phone, opened the photos. Let me show you something. I scrolled through screenshots. Athena's messages demanding money, Clara's texts criticizing my choices, Saiji's social media posts taking credit for my work. This isn't family, I said quietly. This is exploitation. We were going to pay you back. When? After the honeymoon Athena was planning while claiming she couldn't afford vendor deposits? After the designer wardrobe she bought while I drained my savings? Clara's hands trembled as she reached for her coffee. We made mistakes, but to humiliate us publicly. I didn't do that. You did. Athena did. With every tearful TikTok, every fake apology, every attempt to spin the story. My phone buzzed. A message from Jeffrey. Mom's old friends are sharing your magazine article. They're all saying the same thing. That's not how Sarah raised her daughter to be treated. Clara flinched at the mention of my mother. Your mom would be ashamed of how vindictive you've become. No, I said, standing up. Mom taught me to be kind, but she also taught me to stand up for myself. You're just upset because I finally did. Ariel, wait. I have to go. The TV interview is in an hour. Her face paled. What interview? The one where I tell the whole story, with receipts. I shouldered my bag. Don't worry, I won't mention how you knew about Athena's spending while she was begging me for money. You can't. I can, and I will. I turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and Clara? That Birkin bag you're carrying? The one you bought the day after I paid the venue deposit? It looks fake. I met Layla outside. She took one look at my face and hugged me. You okay? Getting there. I checked my watch. Ready to go meet the TV crew? About that? She showed me her phone. Saige just went live. She's confessing everything. We watched as Saigi, crying but composed, detailed the whole scheme. How Athena had planned to use me from the start. How Clara had suggested they keep me off the guest list to avoid awkward questions about money. I was wrong, Saige concluded. I let myself be part of something terrible. Ariel, if you're watching, I'm so sorry. Comments poured in. The truth comes out. This family is toxic. Finally, someone owns up to it. My phone lit up with a text from Elias. The producer wants to interview me too. I'll tell them everything. It's the least I can do. Another message popped up, from Winston. Your story inspired 3 other brides to come forward about family financial abuse. You started something important here. Layla squeezed my hand. Ready to tell your side? I thought about Clara's face when I mentioned my mother, about Athena's carefully crafted social media apologies, about all the other people out there being used by their own families. Yeah, I said. I'm ready. As we drove to the studio, one final message came through, from Jeffrey. Mom would be proud of you, sis. Not for the revenge, but for finally knowing your worth. I smiled, thinking of all the contracts I'd signed, all the details I'd planned, all the money I'd spent trying to buy my family's love. You know what, Layla? For the first time in my life, I'm proud of me too. The TV studio loomed ahead, and with it, the chance to tell my story, not for revenge, not for viral fame, but for every person who needed to hear that it's okay to say no to family when family stops acting like family. Sometimes the biggest wedding gift you can give yourself is the courage to walk away. The morning sun streamed through my kitchen window as I sipped coffee, scrolling through emails. The Modern Bride article had sparked something unexpected. Dozens of messages from people sharing similar stories of family financial abuse. My phone buzzed. Jeffrey. You watching the morning news? I switched on the TV just in time to see Athena being interviewed outside her apartment. I've started a GoFundMe to recoup the wedding costs. She sniffled into the microphone. My cousin's actions have left me devastated and in debt. My phone exploded with notifications as people who'd followed the story started flooding her fundraiser with comments. What about the $47K you took from your cousin? Girl, we saw the receipts. The audacity of this bride. The fundraiser disappeared within minutes. A knock at my door interrupted my thoughts. I opened it to find Layla holding up a familiar-looking folder. Look what Winston just dropped off, she grinned. Inside were all the original contracts, now stamped "Cancelled" in red ink. but underneath them was something new, a business card for Riverside Manor events with my name on it. Winston wants to hire you as their official wedding coordinator, Layla explained. Says you're the most organized person he's ever worked with. Before I could respond, my phone rang, an unknown number. Is this Ariel? A woman asked. I'm Amanda from the National Financial Abuse Prevention Network. We'd like you to speak at our upcoming conference. I looked at the business card in my hand, then at the contracts that had changed everything. Yes, I said. I'd love to. Another knock, this time Jeffrey, carrying a familiar photo album. Found this at Mom's house, he said, setting it on my kitchen table. Thought you might want to see something. He opened to a page showing our mother at her own wedding. She was radiant, but what caught my eye was the small note tucked into the corner. Remember, my darling girl, true family lifts you up, never drains you dry. Love, Mom. My phone buzzed with a text from Clara. The family is falling apart because of you. I showed it to Jeffrey, who snorted. No, it's falling apart because the truth came out. Speaking of truth, Layla said, pulling up TikTok, Elias just posted something interesting. In the video, he stood in front of Riverside Manor. A lot of you asked why I called off the engagement. Here's why. He held up his phone, showing screenshots of Athena and Clara planning how to exploit my generosity from the very beginning. The comments section was brutal. This tea is scalding. They really thought they'd get away with it. Justice served. You know what's funny? I said, closing the photo album. They're still more worried about their reputation than doing the right thing. My phone lit up with another message, this time from Winston. First client meeting next week. Ready to plan someone else's dream wedding? This time with a contract that protects you. I smiled, thinking of all the other people out there struggling to set boundaries with toxic family members. You know what? I told Layla and Jeffrey. I am ready. The doorbell rang one final time. A delivery man held out a package, the advance copies of Modern Bride magazine with my story on the cover. The headline read, The Price of Family Loyalty, One Woman's Journey from Doormat to Dignity. Nice photo, Jeffrey said, examining the cover. Mom would have loved it. My phone buzzed again, Saige requesting to follow me on Instagram. Her bio had changed. Learning from my mistakes, do better, be better. Should I accept? I asked Layla. Your choice, she shrugged. That's kind of the whole point, isn't it? I thought about everything that had happened, the betrayal, the revenge, the unexpected way my story had resonated with so many others. You know what? I said, picking up Winston's business card. I think I'm done looking backward. Jeffrey squeezed my shoulder. Ready to help other brides have the wedding day they deserve? Yeah, I smiled, but this time with better contracts. My phone lit up with one last notification, a review on the magazine's website. Thank you, Ariel, for showing me it's okay to say no to family when they treat you like an ATM. Your story gave me the courage to stand up for myself. I closed my laptop, picked up the business card, and felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Peace. Sometimes the happiest ending isn't about getting revenge or even getting your money back. Sometimes it's about finding your voice, setting your boundaries, and realizing that the best family isn't always the one you're born into. It's the one that respects who you've become. So, Layla grinned, holding up her phone to show another wedding inquiry from Winston. Ready to plan someone else's perfect day? I looked at my mother's photo, the magazine cover, and the business card representing my fresh start. Yeah, I said, but this time I'm writing the rules.
The first thing I noticed walking into my grandmother's funeral was the flowers. $240,000 worth of white roses arranged in cascading towers that seemed to mock the modest woman lying in the mahogany casket. I counted 16 arrangements, each probably worth more than my monthly paralegal salary. My name is Bethany, and I hadn't spoken to my grandmother Claire in 5 years, not by choice, but by careful design. My cousin Skylar stood at the podium, dabbing her eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief through her black lace veil. Grandma Claire was everything to me, she sniffled, her voice carrying through the packed funeral home. She chose me to carry on her legacy, to care for her beloved home, to keep our family's traditions alive. I shifted uncomfortably in the back row, watching the performance. 2 weeks ago, Skylar had already moved into Grandma's Victorian mansion, posting photos of her new forever home on Instagram before the body was even cold. Such a touching eulogy, Catherine, Skylar's mother, whispered loudly to someone nearby. Claire would have wanted this. I remembered the last time I tried to visit Grandma at the hospital. The nurse had stopped me at the door, showing me a form that listed approved visitors only. My name wasn't on it. When I called my father to ask why, he'd said it was for the best and hung up. The funeral director gestured for everyone to take their seats as Attorney Rice approached the podium. He was a tall man with kind eyes and a serious demeanor. I noticed him glancing in my direction several times as he shuffled his papers. Before we conclude this service, he began, Mrs. Claire Holland left explicit instructions for the immediate reading of her will. Skylar straightened in her front row seat, smoothing her designer black dress. Her husband, Raphael, squeezed her hand, both of them wearing slight smiles. The distribution is simple, Rice continued. The estate, including the residence at 1424 Maple Grove and all its contents, is left in its entirety to... He paused, looking directly at me. Her granddaughter, Bethany Holland. The silence lasted exactly 2 seconds before chaos erupted. Catherine's crystal water glass slipped from her hand, shattering on the marble floor. Skylar shot to her feet, her veil falling back. That's impossible, she shrieked. I have the paperwork. The house is already in my name. Rice held up a hand. The documentation is quite clear, Ms. Wilkins, and there's more. More? Raphael stood now too, his face flushed. This is ridiculous. We've already begun renovations. Without legal authority, Rice noted calmly, reaching into his briefcase. Additionally, Mrs. Holland left a sealed envelope to be delivered to Bethany immediately following this announcement. My father finally turned around to look at me, his face a mask of controlled anger. This isn't what your grandmother wanted, he said flatly. You know that. But I didn't know that. I didn't know anything anymore. The envelope Rice handed me felt heavy, like it contained more than just paper. My hands trembled slightly as I held it. This is a mistake, Catherine announced to the room, her voice carrying that same syrupy sweetness she'd used when explaining why I wasn't invited to family Christmas all those years ago. Bethany barely knew Claire. She never visited. Because you made sure I couldn't, I said quietly, finding my voice for the first time. The room fell silent again. Rice cleared his throat. The will has been properly executed and witnessed. Any challenges can be directed to the probate court. He turned to me. Ms. Holland, would you like to say anything? I looked at the envelope in my hands, then at Skylar's reddening face, then at my grandmother's peaceful form in the casket. Something shifted inside me. A lifetime of being pushed aside, of carefully crafted exclusion, of watching others claim what should have been shared love. Actually, yes. I stood up, my voice stronger than I felt. I'd like to thank my grandmother for seeing what others tried to hide. Skylar lunged forward, but Raphael caught her arm. You can't do this. That house is mine. I already have buyers coming to look at it. Rice's eyebrows shot up. Oh, buyers! During active probate? I watched my cousin's face drain of color as she realized what she'd admitted. Catherine quickly stepped between them and the attorney, her smile brittle. Perhaps we should all take time to grieve before discussing business, she suggested smoothly. But it was too late. The damage was done, the truth was out, and in my hands was an envelope that felt like it contained answers to questions I'd been afraid to ask. I walked to my grandmother's casket, placing a single white rose beside her. Thank you, I whispered, then turned to leave. Behind me, I heard Skylar's shrill voice. This isn't over! She was right about that, at least. It wasn't over. It was just beginning. I waited until I was alone in my apartment before opening the envelope. My hands shook as I broke the seal, and several items fell onto my coffee table, photographs, letters, and what looked like a leather-bound journal. The first photo knocked the breath from my lungs. It showed a Christmas gathering from 15 years ago, but something was off. In the corner, barely visible, was my reflection in a mirror, proof I had been there, but in the main family photo I was missing. Someone had edited me out. My phone buzzed. A text from Riley, my oldest friend who happened to be a lawyer. "You okay? That funeral was intense. Want me to come over?" "Please," I texted back. I needed a witness to whatever this was. While waiting for Riley, I opened the journal. My grandmother's elegant handwriting filled the pages. The first entry I read made my throat tight. They're doing it again. Catherine told Bethany the wrong time for Thanksgiving dinner. When she showed up 2 hours late, they'd already eaten. I watched my granddaughter sit alone in the kitchen, picking at cold turkey. I'm too weak to stop them, but I'm not too weak to remember. The doorbell rang. Riley stood there with a bottle of wine and a determined expression. "Spill everything," she said, walking in. I showed her the photo first. She whistled. "That's some next-level gaslighting. There's more." I spread out the contents of the envelope. "Look at these. Birthday party invitations addressed to me but never sent. Hospital visitor logs with my name crossed out. Photos of family events I supposedly never attended, but where glimpses of me could be seen in reflections or shadows. Your grandmother was building a case," Riley said, examining each document. She was documenting everything. My phone started ringing, Skylar's name flashing on the screen. I put it on speaker. "You think you're so clever," she spat, "but that house is mine. I've already invested $50,000 in renovations." "Without legal authority," I reminded her, channeling Rice's calm tone. "I have paperwork proving—" "Proving what?" Riley cut in. "That you moved into a house during active probate? That you're already showing it to buyers?" There was a pause. "Who is this?" "This is Bethany's attorney," Riley said smoothly, winking at me. "And I suggest you direct all future communication through proper legal channels." The line went dead. "You don't have to actually be my attorney," I said, but Riley was already pulling out her laptop. "Oh, honey, after what I just heard, I'm definitely your attorney. Pro bono, because this is going to be fun." She started typing. "First, we need to document everything, then we're filing for immediate possession of the property." Another text came through, from my father this time. "We need to talk about what's best for the family." "Best for the family?" Riley read over my shoulder. "Where was that concern when they were systematically excluding you from every holiday?" I picked up my grandmother's journal again, flipping to a more recent entry. "Skylar and that husband of hers were in my study again today, going through my papers. They think I'm napping, but I see everything. They want the house so badly, but they don't deserve it. Not after what they did to Bethany. My quiet girl who never fought back, never caused scenes. She deserved better, and soon she'll have it." The doorbell rang again. This time it was Catherine, holding what looked like legal papers. "We're contesting the will," she announced without preamble. Riley appeared behind me. "On what grounds?" Catherine's perfectly lined lips tightened. Claire wasn't in her right mind. She was confused, manipulated. "By whom?" I asked. "I wasn't allowed to see her, remember? You made sure of that." "You ungrateful little—" Catherine stopped herself, composing her face into a familiar sympathetic mask. "Bethany, dear, think about what you're doing. This will tear the family apart." "The family's been torn apart for years," I said, finding strength in my grandmother's written words. "You just didn't want me to notice." "We'll see what the courts say," Catherine snapped, thrusting the papers at me. Riley intercepted them. "Yes, we will. And I'll be very interested to hear their take on the unauthorized renovations and attempted sale of a property under probate." After Catherine left, Riley turned to me with a grim smile. "They're scared. They know something we don't yet." I picked up another photo from the envelope. This one showed Skylar and Raphael in my grandmother's study, rifling through her safe when they thought no one was watching. The date stamp was 2 weeks before she died. "No," I said, holding up the photo. "I think we're about to find out exactly what they're afraid of." Riley examined the photo and grinned. "Oh, this is getting better by the minute. Ready to take back what's yours?" I thought about all those lonely holidays, all the carefully orchestrated exclusions, all the years of gaslighting. "Yes," I said firmly. "I'm ready." The journal in my lap seemed to pulse with possibility. My grandmother had seen everything, and now finally, so would everyone else. Riley and I spent the next morning at the county records office. While she dug through property documents, I kept reading my grandmother's journal. Each entry revealed more of the family's careful campaign to push me out. "Holy crap," Riley suddenly whispered, spreading papers across the desk. "Look at this." She pointed to a mortgage application dated 3 weeks before my grandmother's death. Skylar's signature was at the bottom as the property owner. But she didn't own the house, I said. Exactly. Riley pulled out her phone and started taking pictures. This is fraud. They tried to secure a mortgage by falsifying ownership documents. A familiar voice behind us made me freeze. What are you doing here? Raphael stood in the doorway, his real estate agent's smile faltering as he saw the documents spread before us. Funny, Riley said, not looking up. I was about to ask you the same thing. He stepped closer, trying to see what we were reviewing. His face went pale when he spotted the mortgage application. That's private documentation, he said quickly. Actually, Riley corrected, these are public records, including this interesting mortgage application with your signature as a witness. Want to explain that? Raphael backed toward the door. You need to stop digging, for your own good. Is that a threat? I asked, standing up. It's advice, he snapped, then hurried away. Riley was already typing on her laptop. And sent. Just forwarded everything to the DA's office. Mortgage fraud is a felony, you know. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. It was a photo of my grandmother's house with a sold sign in front dated today. They're still trying to sell it, I said, showing Riley. Time to shut this down. She gathered the documents. Let's go pay your house a visit. We drove to the Victorian mansion where I'd spent so many childhood summers. A real estate sign stood in the front yard, and through the windows I could see people walking through, an open house in full swing. Riley marched straight to the front door, her heels clicking on the porch. Inside, Skylar was speaking to a couple in the foyer. As you can see, the original hardwood floors. She stopped mid-sentence when she saw us. Everyone out, Riley announced loudly. This showing is illegal. The house is under probate and not authorized for sale. The potential buyers looked confused. But we were told the sale was already in process, the woman said. You were misled, Riley replied, handing them her card. I suggest you contact my office if you've signed anything or provided any money. Skylar's face twisted with rage as the couples filed out. You have no right to be here. Actually, I said, pulling out the will, I have every right. This is my house. Not for long, she snarled. We've already challenged the will. Yes, about that. Riley pulled out her phone. Care to explain these documents showing you attempted to secure a mortgage by claiming ownership before Claire died? Skylar's face went white. That's not. Raphael handled all that. With your signature, I added. You don't understand, she said, her voice breaking. This house was promised to me. Grandma told me. When? I interrupted. During one of your unauthorized visits to her safe? Her eyes widened. How did you... I showed her the dated photo from the envelope. She grabbed for it, but I pulled it back. Everything you did, I said quietly. Every lie. Every manipulation. She saw it all, and she documented everything. You're bluffing, she whispered, but her hands were shaking. Riley's phone chimed. She checked it and smiled. The DA's office would like to speak with both you and Raphael tomorrow morning. I suggest you bring a criminal attorney. Skylar sank onto the stairs, her designer dress crumpling. You don't know what you're doing. The family will never forgive you. The family, I laughed. The same family that edited me out of photos, that gave me wrong times for holidays, that blocked me from visiting my dying grandmother. We were protecting her, Skylar shouted. You were always the problem child, the one who didn't fit. The only thing that doesn't fit, Riley interjected, is this mortgage application with your forged documents. That's a federal offense. Skylar stood up, smoothing her dress with trembling hands. This isn't over. You're right, I agreed. The DA's office is just the beginning. After she stormed out, Riley turned to me with a grim smile. Want to change the locks? I looked around the grand foyer, at the family photos where I'd been carefully removed, at the spaces that held so many memories of exclusion and pain. Yes, I said. And then I want to take every single one of these photos down. That's my girl. Riley grinned, already dialing a locksmith. As we waited, I found another envelope tucked beneath a cushion on the window seat. My grandmother's handwriting on the front read, "The truth will surface." Inside were more photos, this time of Skylar and Raphael going through my grandmother's private papers late at night, documents spread across the floor of her study. The truth was surfacing all right, and it was about to drown them all. The locksmith finished at midnight. I paid him extra to install a security system, complete with cameras. As he left, I stood in the doorway of my new home, feeling both powerful and uncertain. My phone lit up with a message from Riley. DA's office called. They're moving fast on this. Meeting tomorrow at 9 a.m. I was about to reply when headlights swept across the front windows. A car door slammed, followed by the click of heels on pavement. Open this door right now! Skylar's voice carried through the night air. She pounded on the front door, making the new security camera shake. I pressed the intercom button. It's midnight. Go home. This is my home. She kicked the door. I have buyers coming tomorrow. Any sales would be illegal, I reminded her. The house is under probate. You think you're so smart? She laughed hysterically. We've already cashed their deposits. I recorded her confession on my phone while hitting the police speed dial Riley had programmed earlier. Skylar continued ranting. You have no idea what you're doing. That money is spent. Raphael already used it for... She stopped abruptly as police sirens wailed in the distance. You called the cops? She stumbled back from the door. You little... Ms. Wilkins? A police officer approached from his car. We received a complaint about disturbing the peace. This is my house, Skylar insisted, but her voice wavered. She broke in and changed the locks. I opened the door, holding out the will and property documents Riley had prepared. I'm the legal owner. She's been trying to sell the house without authorization during probate. The officer reviewed the paperwork, then turned to Skylar. Ma'am, you need to leave the property now. But my things are inside, she pointed to the house. All my furniture. Actually, I said, pulling out another document. The house contents were inventoried at the time of my grandmother's death. Everything here belongs to the estate. Skylar's face crumpled. You can't do this? That furniture cost thousands. Purchased with what money? I asked quietly. The officer stepped between us. Ma'am, final warning. Leave now or I'll have to escort you. As Skylar stalked back to her car, she turned and screamed, Catherine was right about you. You're nothing but a vindictive little... The officer cleared his throat loudly, and she finally left, tires squealing. My phone buzzed again. Riley, just got an interesting call from the bank. Guess what I found? I called her back immediately. They tried to take out a second mortgage, she said without preamble, using the fake documents again. But here's the kicker. They already received money from multiple buyers. Deposits, down payments, all of it. What happened to the money? That's what the DA wants to know. Riley's voice was gleeful. This went from probate fraud to wire fraud real quick. How's the house? I looked around the grand entryway. Skylar just showed up demanding her furniture. The furniture she bought with stolen deposit money? Riley laughed. Oh, this keeps getting better. Get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be interesting. I hung up and walked through my new home, really looking at it for the first time. Behind an old painting, I found another note in my grandmother's handwriting. Check the blue room. The blue room had been my grandmother's private study. Inside, everything was exactly as I remembered, except the safe stood open and empty. But when I ran my fingers along the back wall, I felt something. A hidden compartment revealed a USB drive and another note. My dearest Bethany, I knew they would raid the safe after I died. That's why I kept the real evidence here. The drive contains everything. Bank statements, forged documents, security footage. I installed cameras last year when things started disappearing. They thought I was a foolish old woman. They were wrong. Love, Grandma. My hands shaking, I plugged the drive into my laptop. Folders upon folders of evidence appeared. Videos of Skylar and Raphael going through papers late at night, screenshots of bank transfers, photos of them bringing potential buyers through the house while my grandmother was in hospice. My phone rang. An unknown number. Bethany? A man's deep voice came through. This is Detective Harding with the Financial Crimes Unit. We've received some concerning documentation about your cousin and her husband. How soon can you come in? I looked at the USB drive, still glowing in my laptop. I have something you need to see first. Oh? My grandmother left evidence, a lot of it. There was a pause, then, I'll be there in 20 minutes. I sat in my grandmother's study, surrounded by the proof of years of deception, and felt a strange sense of peace. They'd thought they were so clever, so careful, but they'd forgotten one thing. The quiet ones see everything. And now, finally, everyone else would see it too. Detective Harding spent 3 hours going through the USB drive, his eyebrows rising higher with each new file. When my father's number flashed on my phone, the detective nodded for me to answer and kept recording. Bethany, my father's voice was artificially warm. We need to talk, man to daughter. After 5 years of silence, I know things have been complicated. He cleared his throat. But you need to stop this vindictive behavior, the family's reputation. The family's reputation? I interrupted. You mean the family that edited me out of every photo? That family? That's not what happened. I have the original photos, Dad, and the edited versions. Want to explain that? There was a long pause. Catherine thought it would be easier to pretend I didn't exist. You're being dramatic, he said sharply. This is exactly why we had to distance ourselves. You always make everything about you. Detective Harding was typing rapidly, documenting every word. You're right, I said calmly. Let's make it about Skylar instead, about the fraudulent mortgage applications, about the illegal house sales. That's different, he stammered. They were just trying to commit federal fraud? Another pause. How much? Excuse me? How much to make this go away? His voice was low, urgent. Name your price. Detective Harding leaned forward, interest piqued. Are you trying to bribe me into dropping criminal charges? I asked clearly. Don't be crude, my father snapped. I'm offering to solve this within the family. Like you solved my relationship with Grandma by blocking me from her hospital room. That was for her own good. He was shouting now. You were always a disruption, always causing problems. The only problem, I said quietly, is that I finally have proof of everything you did. The line went dead. Detective Harding stopped his recording. Well, that was illuminating. Mind if I keep this USB drive for evidence? Before I could answer, my phone chimed with a Facebook notification. Catherine had posted a lengthy status. Heartbroken to announce that my beloved mother's final wishes are being twisted by someone who barely knew her. My daughter did everything for my late mother, and now she's being punished for her kindness. Please pray for our family during this difficult time. Family first. Comments flooded in immediately. So sorry this is happening. Prayers for justice. Some people have no shame. I was about to close the app when Riley called. Don't react to Catherine's post, she said quickly. I just found something bigger. Remember those buyer deposits Skylar mentioned? They're gone. Gone? Transferred to an offshore account. Raphael moved them last week. We're talking serious money, over $500,000 in deposits from multiple buyers. Detective Harding, who was still gathering his papers, looked up sharply. Did you say offshore accounts? I put Riley on speaker and she explained what she'd found. The detective pulled out a fresh notepad. This just went from local fraud to federal, he said, writing rapidly. We'll need to bring in the FBI. My phone buzzed again, a text from Skylar. Hope you're happy. Raphael just got called in for questioning. This is all your fault. I showed it to the detective, who added it to his evidence file. Don't respond, he advised. Let them keep digging their hole deeper. After he left, I walked through the house again, really looking at the family photos still hanging on the walls. In one, I noticed a slight blur where I should have been standing. In another, an awkward gap in the group positioning where I'd been edited out. Behind one frame, I found another note from my grandmother. They think appearances are everything. Let them keep thinking that. The truth matters more than pretty pictures. My phone kept lighting up with notifications as Catherine's Facebook post spread through the family network. Distant relatives I hadn't heard from in years were suddenly experts on my character, my motives, my relationship with my grandmother. Then a new message appeared from my grandmother's old neighbor, Margaret. Bethany, I need to tell you something. Skylar was bringing people through the house while your grandmother was in hospice. Claire asked me not to say anything. She was afraid of confrontation in her final weeks. But she left me a letter to give you. Can we meet? I texted Riley immediately. More evidence coming. Grandma left letters with the neighbors too. Her response was quick. She really did think of everything. The DA's going to love this. I looked out the window at the manicured lawn, remembering all the summers I wasn't allowed to visit, all the holidays I was told were canceled only to see photos later on Facebook. Another text came through, this time from Detective Harding. FBI's involved now. They want to meet tomorrow. Bring everything you have. I smiled, thinking of the hidden letters, the secret recordings, the years of carefully documented deception. Oh, I texted back, I will. The FBI office was nothing like the movies. No dark interrogation rooms, just a bright conference room where Agent Sarah Martinez spread documents across a large table while Detective Harding and Riley sat beside me. Let me make sure I understand, Martinez said, arranging photos in sequence. Your cousin and her husband collected deposits from multiple buyers for a house they didn't own while your grandmother was still alive? Yes, Riley confirmed. We've documented at least 7 different deposits. And the money? Transferred to accounts in the Cayman Islands, Detective Harding added, total amount approaching 700,000. Martinez whistled softly. That's not small-time fraud anymore. The door opened and a junior agent entered. They're here. Raphael walked in first, followed by an expensive-looking lawyer. Schuyler came next, then Catherine. My father entered last, not meeting my eyes. Thank you for coming, Martinez said professionally. We have some questions about certain financial transactions. This is ridiculous, Catherine interrupted. We're here to discuss a family matter, not Mrs. Wilkins, Martinez cut in. This ceased being a family matter when your daughter and son-in-law began committing wire fraud. The lawyer leaned forward. My clients deny any wrongdoing. Really? Martinez pulled out a document. So they deny showing the house to the Williams family on March 15th and accepting a $50,000 deposit? Schuyler shifted uncomfortably. Or the Johnson family on March 18th, another 40,000? Martinez continued. Or perhaps, we had every right, Schuyler burst out. Grandma promised me that house. Schuyler, her lawyer warned, but she was already standing. You don't understand. We needed that money. Raphael's business was failing, and the renovations were so expensive, and you decided to sell a house you didn't own? Martinez finished. We had paperwork, Raphael protested. Forged paperwork, Riley corrected, sliding copies across the table, created while Mrs. Clare was in hospice. Catherine's perfect composure finally cracked. You ungrateful little witch, she hissed at me, after everything we did for you. Everything you did to her, a new voice said from the doorway. Margaret, my grandmother's neighbor, stood there with a thick envelope. I brought what Claire gave me, she said, walking to the table, including the security footage from her house. Security footage? Catherine's face went pale. Claire installed cameras last year, Margaret explained. After things started disappearing from her house, she saw everything, the late-night visits to her study, the unauthorized house showings, the documents being taken from her safe. That's inadmissible, the lawyer started, but Martinez was already reviewing the footage on her laptop. Actually, she said, given that it was recorded by the homeowner on her private property, it's perfectly admissible. My father finally spoke. Bethany, please, think about what you're doing to this family. I am thinking about it, I replied calmly. I'm thinking about 15 years of systematic exclusion, of edited photos, of blocked hospital visits, of stolen inheritance. You can't prove, Catherine began. Actually, Margaret interrupted again. Claire documented everything. She pulled out a journal, including the day you told her Bethany had refused to visit her in the hospital, when really you'd turned her away at the door. The room fell silent. Mr. and Mrs. Little, Martinez addressed Raphael and Schuyler. We have enough evidence to charge you both with multiple counts of wire fraud, theft by deception, and conspiracy. Wait, Raphael said quickly. What if we cooperate? What if we tell you everything? Schuyler whirled on him. Raphael! I'm not going to prison for your family's schemes, he shouted. It was Catherine's idea to forge the documents. She said we needed to secure the house before Claire died. Catherine stood up so fast her chair fell backward. How dare you? After everything we've done for you. Enough! Martinez's voice cut through the chaos. Mr. Little, if you'd like to make a formal statement, we can discuss potential cooperation agreements. The lawyer looked pained. My clients need a moment to... I'll tell you everything, Raphael said. About the forged documents, the illegal sales, all of it. Catherine orchestrated the whole thing. You miserable little... Catherine lunged for him, but an agent stepped between them. Mrs. Wilkins, Martinez said sharply, please sit down, or you'll be charged with assault. I watched my family implode, their carefully constructed facade crumbling under the weight of truth. Years of manipulation, lies, and fraud laid bare in a fluorescent-lit conference room. Interview rooms are ready, an agent announced. As they were led away separately, Schuyler turned to me one last time. I hope you're happy, she spat. You've destroyed everything. No, I replied quietly. You did that yourself. I just brought the receipts. The door closed behind them, leaving me with Riley, Margaret, and the evidence of a lifetime of deception. "Your grandmother would be proud," Margaret said softly. I thought of all the hidden letters, the secret cameras, the quiet documentation of years of betrayal. "I know," I said. "She saw everything. And now, finally, everyone else does too." The indictments came down like dominoes. First Raphael, then Schuyler, then Catherine. The local news ran the story with the headline, "Prominent Family Charged in Multi-State Real Estate Fraud Scheme." I watched from my grandmother's study as reporters gathered outside the courthouse. On screen, Raphael walked out in handcuffs, his designer suit wrinkled from hours of questioning. "Breaking news," the reporter announced. "Raphael Little has agreed to testify against his wife and mother-in-law in exchange for a reduced sentence. Sources say he provided detailed evidence of a years-long conspiracy." My phone buzzed with a text from Riley. "Check your email. You need to see Catherine's latest move." I opened my inbox to find a mass email Catherine had sent to the entire extended family. My beloved family members. In this time of crisis, we must stand together against those who would tear us apart. Bethany's vindictive actions have destroyed lives and reputations. We ask for your prayers and support as we fight these baseless charges. Please contribute to our legal defense fund. A PayPal link followed. "Is she serious?" I texted Riley. "Oh, it gets better," Riley replied. "The FBI just flagged that PayPal account. She's using it to collect money while under investigation for financial fraud." My father's email came next. "Bethany, you had no right. This wasn't what your grandmother wanted. You've destroyed our family's reputation. I hope you're satisfied with yourself." "Dad?" I opened my grandmother's journal and took a photo of one specific page, sending it as my reply. "John keeps telling everyone Bethany doesn't want to visit me, but I saw her at the hospital last week, trying to get past security with tears in her eyes. They're using my illness to punish her. This stops now. She is my only deserving heir." His response was immediate. "Those journals were private. Like the family photos you edited me out of?" I texted back. The doorbell rang. Margaret stood there with a box of old VHS tapes. "Found these in my attic," she said. "Claire asked me to keep them safe. They're recordings of family events, the original versions, before the editing." We spent the afternoon watching them on my grandmother's old VCR. There I was at Christmas, age 12, before they started cropping me out. There I was at Schuyler's Sweet 16 before Catherine decided I was too disruptive to invite to parties. "Look at this one." Margaret pointed to the screen. "Claire recorded this secretly." The footage showed Catherine and my father in the hospital waiting room. "We have to keep Bethany away," Catherine was saying. "If Claire changes her will—" "She won't," my father replied, "as long as we control who sees her." My phone rang. Detective Harding. "Thought you'd want to know," he said. "Raphael's singing like a canary. Says Catherine orchestrated everything, from the edited photos to the fraudulent sales. Says she's been planning this for years." "Any word from Schuyler?" "Still denying everything, but her lawyer's pushing for a deal. The offshore accounts are the nail in the coffin." The family group chat exploded with notifications. Catherine had posted again. "My dearest daughter is being persecuted for loving her grandmother too much. Please share our GoFundMe." Riley replied instantly. "Soliciting funds while under federal investigation is a separate crime. I forwarded this to the FBI." The chat went silent. Another text came through from an unknown number. It was a photo of my grandmother's house with the message, "You'll regret this." I forwarded it to Detective Harding, who responded immediately. Traced it. Came from Schuyler's phone, adding witness intimidation to the charges. Margaret touched my arm. "There's one more tape you should see." The final VHS showed my grandmother sitting in her study, recording a message. "Bethany, if you're watching this, then everything has come to light. I'm sorry I couldn't stop them sooner, but I could document everything. Watch, remember, and know that you were always loved." The doorbell rang again. This time it was Agent Martinez. "Catherine's been arrested again," she announced, "caught trying to access the offshore accounts, and we found something interesting in her house." She held up a folder of documents, original photos, unedited, showing me at every family event, proof of their systematic erasure. She kept the evidence of her own crimes, Martinez said, shaking her head. "Classic narcissist behavior." My phone lit up with a final text from Skylar. My lawyer says I should tell the truth. I'm sorry, Bethany. Mom made us do it. All of it. I know it doesn't make it right, but, I'm sorry. I sat in my grandmother's chair, surrounded by the evidence she'd carefully collected. The tapes, the photos, the journals. Years of quiet observation and documentation waiting for the right moment. Your grandmother? Margaret said softly. She always said the truth would surface, like cream rising to the top. I looked at the chaos unfolding on my phone, the arrests, the confessions, the crumbling facade of family perfection. She was right, I replied. The truth always surfaces. And sometimes, I thought, it surfaces with handcuffs and federal charges. The morning of the sentencing hearing, I found one last envelope hidden in my grandmother's desk. The paper was fresh, not aged like the others, a final letter from Attorney Rice. Dear Bethany, your grandmother left one more surprise. Come see me after today's hearing. Rice. The courthouse was packed with reporters. Catherine, Schuyler, and Raphael sat separately with their lawyers. My father hadn't shown up. In the matter of federal wire fraud, the judge began, this court has reviewed the evidence and plea agreements. Catherine stared straight ahead, her perfect posture finally broken. Schuyler kept wiping tears from her face. Raphael just looked tired. Raphael Little, in recognition of your cooperation, this court sentences you to 18 months in federal prison and restitution of all stolen funds. He nodded, accepting the punishment. Schuyler Wilkins, given your eventual cooperation and guilty plea, you are sentenced to 36 months in federal prison and restitution. She started sobbing quietly. Catherine Wilkins, the judge's voice hardened, as the orchestrator of this scheme, and given your attempts to continue fraudulent activities while under investigation, you are sentenced to 72 months in federal prison, plus restitution. This is an outrage! Catherine stood up. We're a respected family. You can't— Remove the defendant, the judge ordered. As they led Catherine away, she turned to me. I hope you're satisfied. You've ruined everything. No, I said clearly, making sure my voice carried. You ruined everything when you decided to erase me. Outside the courthouse, Riley hugged me. Ready to see Rice? Almost. I walked over to Schuyler, who was saying goodbye to her lawyer. I really am sorry, she whispered. I should have stood up to Mom years ago. Yes, you should have. I handed her a photo, us as children, before everything went wrong. But maybe in 3 years we can talk about it. She clutched the photo, nodding through tears. Rice's office was warm and familiar now. He smiled as I entered, holding a small wooden box. Your grandmother's final gift, he said. She wanted you to have this after justice was served. Inside was a key and a deed to a small lakeside cottage. I don't understand, I said. The house wasn't enough? The house was justice, Rice explained. This is peace. The cottage where she used to take you fishing, remember? Before everything changed? I remembered those quiet mornings by the lake, just me and Grandma. Before the editing, before the exile, before the fraud. She bought it secretly, Rice continued. Catherine never knew. It's yours now, a place untouched by all this drama. My phone buzzed, a text from my father. The family will never recover from what you've done. I showed Rice, who chuckled. Want to see something interesting? He pulled out one last document, a DNA test. Your grandmother ran this privately, he said. Turns out Catherine isn't even related to Claire. She was adopted as a baby, but used her perceived blood connection to control everything. Claire found out last year. So all that talk about blood and family was a lie, Rice finished. Like everything else. I drove straight to the cottage. The key turned smoothly in the lock. Inside, everything was exactly as I remembered. The old fishing poles, the quilted throws, the peace. On the kitchen table sat one final envelope. Read this last. My grandmother's handwriting flowed across the page. Dearest Bethany, if you're reading this, then justice has been served. The house was your inheritance, but this cottage is your sanctuary. They tried to erase you from photos, but they could never erase you from my heart. I'm sorry I couldn't stop them sooner. But I could watch, record, and prepare. Everything they did to you, I documented. Every lie they told, I saved. Not for revenge, but for justice. You were never the problem child. You were the honest one in a family of pretenders, the real one in a gallery of edited photos, the true heir to not just my property, but my values. This cottage is yours. No strings, no drama, no family politics. Just peace, like those mornings we spent fishing. Remember, they tried to write you out of the story, but you wrote yourself back in with truth, with dignity, and with justice. I love you, my quiet, strong granddaughter. Grandma Claire. I sat on the cottage porch watching the sunset over the lake. My phone buzzed with messages from distant relatives, some apologizing, some angry, some trying to explain. I turned the phone off. The truth had surfaced, justice had been served, the pretenders were facing consequences. And here in this quiet cottage by the lake, I finally had what they could never take away: peace. I picked up an old fishing pole, just like I used to with Grandma. Some things don't need editing. Some memories stay pure. Some truths rise to the surface, clear as the lake at dawn. And sometimes justice comes not with a bang, but with the quiet click of a cottage door, locking the chaos out and the peace in.